Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Хотите жить – бегите. Хотите жить – сдавайтесь в плен. Россия не получит новую территорию Украины. Россия присоединит себя к той катастрофе, которую она принесла на оккупированную территорию нашей страны. Оккупант заполняет могилами захваченную территорию Украины. И все больше могил на территории самой России. Ценой того, что один человек в России хочет продолжать эту войну, кто хочет войны больше, чем жизнь. Ваши жизни, граждане России.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 547 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And of course, today we have absolutely massive news to cover.
And of course, we have the biggest news to cover as far as the frontline situation is going in Ukraine. The Ukrainian Special Forces stepped foot into Crimea today. It happened today. And it is absolutely unbelievable. The entire thing was filmed, and we have some video excerpts that the Ukrainians have released, but we have proof and confirmation for the first time since I'm even stuttering through it. Since 2014, it is the first time that Ukrainian armed forces have stepped foot into the peninsula. It has been absolutely unbelievable, and we're going to be getting into it literally right now. And so moving on into our first clip, here is the video footage of them raising the flag of Ukraine on the shores of the Crimean Peninsula. Here we can see their boat going in. We can see the Mark 19 grenade launcher that they have on the front of the boat. And we can now see them taking a Ukrainian flag and right on the shores of the Crimean Peninsula, raising it onto the side of a building. These special forces have bypassed all Russian naval defenses and have also passed the Kinburn Spit and have made it all the way to Crimea itself. These guys are standing on soil that no Ukrainian soldier has been able to stand on since the year 2014, nearly 10 years ago at this point. This is a historic day, if there ever has been one. And we can now hear the boat. Actually, we can hear some firefights going on there. And it appears that the boat's now also on its way in the middle of the night again. That's the end of that clip, but we also have some additional footage from later on at sea of the Ukrainian Special Forces once again at work as they are either moving towards the peninsula or away from it, more towards the sunrise. And so, here is the other clip from what they were able to do today. We can see the Ukrainian boat right here. And we can see the soldiers looking around the sky, of course scanning for anything that may be coming their way.
Now, what was the objective of this mission? Because it looks like it's only a small group of special forces.
The objective was to test out Russian naval defenses and to see how effective they were, or if they would detect these special forces before they made it to Crimea. And from what we can tell, nothing detected them until they engaged Russian forces on the peninsula, so Russian ground forces, and only then were the Russians alerted to their presence. So it's showing that right now there is a massive data gap in between the Kinburn Spit and the Crimean Peninsula that could be used by the Ukrainians to bring in further raiding parties. And you now hear some rifle fire. And when you see the boat taking a hard right turn. And we now see that all the soldiers are yelling. It appears that they've spotted something flying. And what you were actually hearing right there, from what I was able to find, this noise, that is actually the sound of an autocannon from an aircraft firing at the boat. It missed. And the sound that you were hearing was the bullets hitting the water off to one side of the ship. And so now, we can see that they are certainly in the gauntlet. We can see them firing back at the aircraft. We can see it there for just a short second. It was a pixel or two.
Man, it seems like an extremely risky mission just for basically recon.
Well, it was vital recon for sure, and they also did survive because the video footage did come out. If they hadn't survived, the video footage would have never seen the light of day. And we can now... Hold on.
What was that?
My man out here just whipping out the Piorin. That's he said, oh, a plane!
Damn.
And then he fired off a SAM. A man-pad, actually, but you see the explosion of it right out there. Can't really tell what it hit. But you now see the Ukrainian Special Forces trying to eyeball the sky, see if anything else is coming their way. And we can also see that this is a completely separate boat. The other one in the first clip had a Mark 19 grenade launcher. This one appears to have an M250 caliber machine gun on the front of it, showing that there were apparently multiple boats that were conducting this raid, not just a single one. But you see them looking at the plume up there in the sky of whatever that hit. And we can see the boat still traveling on its way. For some reason, this boat feels like it could go so much faster, but I bet you they got this thing going all out right now.
Man, they should have put some jet engines on the back of this boat.
Dude, they should have put some nitrous in that thing. Get this thing really going.
Put that race fuel in it.
And we can see the boat taking another evasive maneuver, and we can hear some rifle fire coming from the boat, as it now seems that they may be seeing a drone coming near to the vessel. Oh, never mind. Sorry, that was actually them getting strafed a second time by the aircraft. And we can actually see some of those tracer rounds impact the water around the boat, once again completely missing, though. And I hope you saw that, Matthew. I hope you saw the tracer fire right there.
Yes.
That almost got him. But once again, missing the boat. And the boat is once again on its way. And somehow, this boat made it to the area of Ukrainian air defenses just in the nick of time to avoid a third strafe, from what we understand, from this aircraft. And so...
Dang, man, that was pure luck, too. I wonder how quick the Russians were able to get that plane up in the air. Like, did they get it up there pretty fast, or was it like a slow process and it took the boat a long time to get over there?
It probably took a decent while, because we have to remember that they made landfall in the middle of the night, and this is apparently dawn. And so this was probably hours since they originally landed and were leaving, and then the plane showed up. So it actually took a long time from what we could tell. And another interesting thing is that, according to information that we gathered outside of this video on this clip and the information about this raid today, that aircraft that was firing at them was an Su-25. And really quickly, I have to show y'all the Su-25 because there's something very telling about how bad off the Russians are in Crimea based off of how that aircraft interacted with the boat. So let me go down here real quick, and I'm going to try and find y'all a good picture, a solid one, of a Russian Su-25 TM. And we can see right here some of the loadouts of weaponry that the Su-25 could carry on its pylons. We can see some Vickers missiles. We can also see what is a KH-29. We can also see a larger unguided rocket, but you notice something that in that entire clip, that Su-25 that was engaging the Ukrainian Special Forces didn't fire anything but its cannon, showing that this aircraft had no external payloads mounted onto its pylons on its wings. This thing just had the cannon ammo alone, and it may be showing that the Russian air forces inside of Crimea are running so low on supplies the Su-25s aren't even being equipped with the basics, like, for example, unguided rockets of the S-8 variety, which are widely available and abundant in most other areas, but we didn't even see that in this clip. It just used the cannon alone. And some people are probably going to say, oh, because it's a boat. No, it's not just a boat. It's a boat filled with Ukrainian special forces that just landed in Crimea. It's a fairly valuable target for the Russians to destroy, and the fact that they somehow didn't have any other weaponry rather than the cannon to fire at it is telling us that they may be running out of unguided and guided munitions to even put onto an Su-25 inside of Crimea. And that also is telling us a lot more information about their abilities in that area than we have been getting. And of course, don't even have to say this again, the fact that the Ukrainians even landed in Crimea, and this marker is wholly inaccurate, it's in another location, but we're of course not showing that location due to operational security reasons, but what we are seeing today is that the Crimean Peninsula, which has been touted by the Russians as an impenetrable fortress, can actually be reached with a inflatable boat and some good luck. Apparently you can make it all the way through Russian naval defenses, past the Kinburn Spit, past the Russian Black Sea Fleet, which supposedly is out there in the sea somewhere, looking towards Ukrainian ports, past it all and made it to the shore, and the only moment that the Russians knew they were there is when they finally saw them and began to shoot at them on the shore. That is the only time that the Russians had ever become aware of this little encroachment. And it's also a historic one at that. And this is one that has to be massively hyped up, because I know some people are going to say, oh man, this isn't like a whole army of Ukrainians marching into Crimea. No, it's not. That is absolutely true. It was only a group of about 5 boats. But what is important to point out from this is that 5 boats made it to Crimea at all. And not only that, they landed on the shore, put up a Ukrainian flag, and then somehow left, and every single one of the members of that team ended up surviving the entire mission. That is huge. And it's also showing a lot of weaknesses that Crimea inherently has in its defenses that the Ukrainians can hopefully exploit here soon. And soon it will be. The Russian forces, from what we're understanding on Telegram, are crumbling right now near Robotyne. According to pro-Russian telegrams that have some sources on the ground there, the situation has just gone from 0 to 100 overnight on the Ukrainian side. And the Russians can't really respond to it well. And I'll be showing y'all this because right now, this video clip is about 6 to 7 hours old, and so while it is relatively new, this was also filmed by a Russian drone, so it's not violating operational security considering that the source is the Russians, and whenever operational security is an issue, we're trying to hide information from the Russians that they may not know. Considering that they filmed this video, it's not violating operational security because they already know about the location of these vehicles. But why in the world am I even saying that? Like, you know, I haven't even shown you all the clip yet. What is up with that? Well, because a Russian drone that was flying around on the Robotyne area today happened to fly somewhere to the western side of the village, and at around a few thousand feet up, it panned its camera back towards the direction of Orikhiv. And what it saw truly shook Russian commanders in the area to their core. From what we can tell, they are terrified. On the road heading to Robotyne was 50 Ukrainian APCs in one massive column moving onto the battlefield. And you can see them pointed out with that little orange arrow right there as they're moving in. You can see a whole bunch of them there. You can see a massive column of them here. You can see them stretching into the horizon back there towards Orikhiv. That's a lot of APCs. You know, if you ever
is a lot.
If you ever just look at that, you go, damn, I think the Russian army is about to collapse when this thing hits the line. And from what we're telling, they are. According to a pro-Russian telegram that just came out about 4 hours ago, exactly 4 hours ago, this is a statement from the Russian forces. And of course, there's a little bit of exaggeration in here. They, of course, have to be fighting NATO in the telegram post, but I'll be reading to y'all what the 2 telegram posts say. In the Orikhiv direction, to the north of the settlement, the enemy pulls equipment in an amount of approximately 500 units. Apparently, the enemy plans to strike a decisive blow. Based on tactical actions of the enemy, he plans to go through Verbove and Tokmak. Guys, look at 360. So they're actually telling the Russian forces in this little telegram post to look all around them. And they're apparently already expecting, just in the Telegram post, to be encircled here soon in their defensive positions. Let's leave the enemy alone with his wet dreams. All right, pretty odd to become overtly sexual about that, but apparently we got a little Michael Jackson here in the paratrooper unit. But anyways, P.S., according to enemy radio interceptions, we can conclude that foreign manpower is used in this area. And I don't know where they're getting that from, because that still hasn't been proven by the Russians whatsoever. They just bring that up whenever they want to. But moving on into the next Telegram post, which from what we understand came out about 20 minutes later from this one, things had already gotten bad. And this was the Telegram post that they put out. The enemy has raised a swarm of attack drones. The sky is not visible. They crush with an assault onslaught. Very hot. Pray for our guys. It's extremely difficult for them now. And so from what we're getting from the Russian side, hell has just broken loose in Robotyne, and also from rumors, the Ukrainians are already fighting in Novoprokopivka as we're speaking. We can't confirm that at the moment because there's no Ukrainian footage or official Ukrainian statements to confirm whether that's true or not, but it already seems that Russian forces are beginning to crumble, and it may actually be a proper full-size Ukrainian army that's going to be making it into Crimea here before long. And now you can see why the recon and the landing of the special forces in Crimea today was incredibly important, because it does appear that they are starting to quickly move in the direction of Tokmak, and from there, they may be moving on into Melitopol. The Surovikin line has already been reached at this point, and from what we actually understand, I was actually looking at a map today, Verbove and the defensive positions outside of Verbove that exist just to the direct north and then take a turn to the south and then level out to the west and go in between Ilchinkove and Slodka Baltka. From the maps I've been looking at today, that's actually the second line of defenses in the Surovikin line. The first line was actually in front of Robotyne, and that has already been overrun. The two lines actually merge at Verbove and become one singular defensive line from Verbove over to the area of Vokrosenka. And then from there, they then split into two separate defensive positions again. But that means something pretty major. If the Ukrainians can break through near Verbove, like the Russians are claiming, and they also push through at Novoprokopivka, they will have broken through near Verbove, the second Russian defensive line, and they will be making contact with and fighting on the second defensive line near Slodka Balka. That means that there will only be one untouched defensive line left, and from what we understand, it is the weakest of the three. The second defensive line is actually the strongest of them all. The third is more like a communications and reserve trench that is really just used as a last resort. But that defensive line exists around Tokmak itself, and that already shows that the Russians know the geographical advantage that Tokmak may have, with major highways intersecting inside of the city, and not only that, a river intersecting the town as well. It's a very formidable defensive position, and not only that, it will probably become a battlefield soon. And that's not all we have from the area today, because while the Russians know that this is going to be a battlefield, in the meantime, during today, and also a couple of weeks ago, they had decided that Tokmak, of course, is the best spot for a Russian command post. And the Ukrainians, interestingly enough, knew a little bit about where this command post was and ended up blowing it up today. We don't know how many Russian commanders were taken out in this strike, but here is a video of the explosion on the Russian headquarters at Tokmak. And we can see this cameraman here running backwards as he's looking back at the explosion. And that's the end of the clip. But from what we were told, that was the 20th Motorized Rifle Brigade's headquarters of the Russian Armed Forces, and that's one of the units right now that is taking up the defensive positions near Verbove, from what we understand. So they are going to be having a little bit of technical communication delays or technical difficulties over these next few hours before their command structure is re-established in a new location, considering that apparently one has been put out of business, probably permanently. Moving back into Robotyne, we also got to see something interesting. You all remember the 19-year-old kid from yesterday that had been captured in a trench near Robotyne, and he said, "Please, don't hurt me, I'm just a 19-year-old boy." Well, we actually got a little bit of extra context today for the little soldier boy right there, or as we will now colloquially, I can't even say that word. We will now call him Soldier Boy, like the rapper. But here's the clip. Here's the background of Soldier Boy, because he actually was a little bit of a minor celebrity in Russia for a minute. He got to stand in front of an abandoned M2 Bradley. but it appears that he turns table a little too much, and now he's the one that the videos are being made of. And there's the 19-year-old boy right here. He's the one holding the camera. You see him standing in front of the Bradley. And my oh my, how the times change so quickly. Those videos were only taken 2 days apart, by the way. So he got to stand in front of a Bradley, and then the next thing you know, he's a prisoner of war. And so with that, that's the end of that little clip while we hear hell
I like how it
breaking
cuts
loose.
off right as the like gunfire starts.
Yeah, they're like, you're fine. And then the video just ends. But still, amazing to see that they were able to get a little soldier boy right there. And it appears he wasn't able to revel in his success of standing that close to an amazing and invincible Bradley for so long. And of course, I'm kidding.
That's when he turned to music for a career. He left the battlefield and turned to freestyle.
Man, he's sitting there, he's going... But anyways, moving on
That's
from
a different guy, but all right.
Yeah, that's a different guy, but it still works. Joke works out. But anyways, we also got to see that a Russian Su-25 was shot down in this area today as well. I wonder if it's the same one that was firing at the Ukrainian forces on the boats near Crimea. Of course, it's not. But here's the clip. And we see them watching this burning pillar of smoke in the distance. And we also see a little aircraft skirting over the tree line over there. You hear one guy getting a little kick out of the whole thing. We see the smoke still rising. And there's an Su-25 right out there in the distance. You can see it. And he's zooming in on it the best he can. He's actually watching this on another computer screen. We can see it taking a hard left turn. It's going back towards where it came from. And we can see a little puff right there. Poof. And
Boof.
it disappears behind the trees.
What did it go blit?
Oh, we got the smoke. It's down. That Su-25 is literally smoked. And wonderful to see another pretty valuable Russian aircraft at this point lost to Ukrainian ground defense fire in the area. Meaning that now the Russian forces will not be able to count on that Su-25 to launch another sortie in the area again. It will now become a part of the aesthetic of the battlefield, in polite terms. Moving on from that and into one of our last clips from Robotyne today, we also saw Russian vehicles that are racing towards Novoprokopivka to try and set up defensive positions there, ended up being shelled today by Ukrainian forces along that highway. So here's the Russian column. We can actually see, for one of the first times in history, the Russians are using a small amount of common sense. There's actual spacing inside of this column. That's something you rarely ever see, to be quite honest with y'all. And we see them making the bend, and in a second we'll geolocate this clip.
Одна сюда заїхала ще.
Я її не побачив.
And when you hear the Ukrainian drone operator go, as they're calling in the artillery and dialing it on in, and we can see the first lead vehicle getting hit and knocked out. We now see the second vehicle in the column just barge right through, and now take a sharp right turn down the small country road. And let's see how that does them. We can already see that other parts of the column are already wavering and beginning to retreat off the field. For example, this one's doing a 3-point turn. That's going to be heading back to where they came. And we can see that that one doing the 3-point turn just ended up joining his friend. Remember, everyone, 3-point turns in the middle of a battlefield probably aren't smart, especially when there's artillery being called into your exact position. You might not be able to move away in time. So now you see the third vehicle, actually the fourth vehicle in the column, trying to move on through. And that's the end of the clip. But out of the 4 vehicles that we saw, 2 of them would never make it to the area of Novoprokopivka and would end up burning wreckage on the highway leading to it. So really quickly, let's go on Google Maps here, and let's find out exactly where that was. So there's Tokmak, there's Novoprokopivka, and so what we were looking at was this area exactly right here, actually. That's the exact spot. So let me go back to that clip, and I'll show you all the confirmation here to make sure we're getting the right location. But you can see the sharp turn, forested area, forested tree line. Sharp turn, forested area, forested tree line, right there. Those Russian forces were literally just about a quarter mile away from being inside of Novoprokopivka, and every single, well, half of the convoy ended up being destroyed before they could ever make it there. Also, another interesting thing that we can note from this as well is that they are not, this has got to be clear, they were not moving up to Robotyne. If they were moving up to Robotyne, they would have stayed on this highway here, highlighted in yellow. They would have taken the right turn up here, they would have continued on past the village, and then taken a left turn, and then started driving on towards the area of Robotyne, just about another 2 miles north. Instead, we saw the only 2 surviving vehicles in the convoy take a sharp right onto this small little road right here, and they immediately began driving into the rear lines of the defensive positions at Novoprokopivka. That is clearly indicating that they have lost Robotyne, and the only safe area for reinforcements to enter is behind the actual Russian defensive positions that are either in this row of village houses or all the way up here. Based off of how this village is laid out compared to Robotyne, we can expect this battle to unfold in a fairly prototypical fashion. Russian forces are going to set up a barrier force up here in this small little compound or street of houses, and they're going to try and hold off Ukrainian forces for as long as possible. We can probably also expect that the Russian forces will attempt to use the sheds over here as some kind of a basing point, maybe for entrenched troops to dig in near the tree lines, or to just try and give them a little bit of a base of operation, although that probably won't last long. The Ukrainians will probably shell that thing into oblivion once they see fire coming from it, and so then Russian forces will have to fall back entirely onto the main part of Novoprokopivka right here. The Ukrainians will have a fairly strong hold onto this northern small outcropping of the village, meaning that they'll have a great launching point to move on into the rest of the village. So as far as this defensive position goes, without earthworks and entrenchments being considered, this is actually a fairly poor one, because the Russians will not have a strong defensive position starting out, especially when the Ukrainians begin to bring their full weight, like we just saw in the Russian recon video, onto this area. This will probably not hold that long, and so we'll see the Ukrainians take control of this very quickly. It also gives them a small amount of cover to move their APCs into close range of the village with, because the rubble of the houses will provide just enough cover for the APCs to move up over the horizon and not be shot at by the Russians. And considering that there's no meaningful defensive positions to be held out here, we can also see that that will not end well for the Russians to hold a defensive position right here. This will probably be the quickest one to fall, actually, because it'll only require a few precise artillery hits, and we'll probably see all actual cover, or concealment for that matter, wiped out in this part of the battlefield. And so, all in all, we can probably expect the battle to turn out that way. Of course, there's multiple ways it can turn out. The Ukrainians could just attempt to bypass the village altogether and just go for an encirclement around the fields. It's not really that difficult to run a supply line out there, but at the same time, the Russians in this small area could actually interdict a Ukrainian maneuver, especially if it's trying to head west and towards Ilchinkove, so they would probably have to deal with this first, and then the Ukrainians would try and fan out and create a flanking maneuver around Novoprokopivka and force the Russians to retreat by maneuver. But anyways, after going into great detail on how that battle would probably unfold, as you can tell, the situation is terrible for the Russians in that area, and even the Russians aren't having a lot of faith as to how this battle is going to be turning out. And there's a good reason why, because Russia is having a bit of an issue right now. Some of y'all may have heard about this, but Prigozhin is dead. It's largely been confirmed at this point. Of course, nobody, well, I'm saying nobody, I have not seen the pictures of the bodies in the wreckage. Not trying to make that sound morbid, but it kind of is. It's war. But we haven't seen the bodies in the wreckage yet, or pictures of them to really confirm if they're Prigozhin. But everyone is treating Prigozhin like he's dead, to the point that Wagner's soldiers are laying out flowers at Prigozhin memorials in St. Petersburg, and they are literally breaking down. Like, it's actually crazy. These guys worshipped Prigozhin. I mean, you see that right here.
That's crazy. I didn't know the guy had like a cult around him.
Dude, the guy
like
literally,
a whole cult of Prigozhin.
Dude, the guy literally was a like cult figure to the Wagner. And I have to say, man, this is ammunition for the argument that this is not the end. Prigozhin dying is just the beginning of whatever's about to pop off, because if this guy is so overwhelmed with emotions, and this guy was also serving in Africa, by the way, before he returned to Russia, if this guy is so overwhelmed with emotions that he's going to mentally break down like that, imagine what he's going to do if anyone even tells him that they had something to do with Prigozhin being killed. This guy is going to go on a murdering spree.
Oh, yeah, it's just a matter of time till Wagner eventually fires up their trucks and heads back to Moscow. I'm not sure what they're waiting for, though, because I haven't heard anything new today coming out about it.
Well, while you may have not heard anything coming out about it officially, it does appear that there's been a little bit of a stir at the Wagner camp in Belarus. It's being dismantled at record speed. We don't know by who. We don't know if the Belarusian government is the one taking apart the Wagner camp, considering that they supplied the tents. But this is what the camp looked like on the 1st of August. This is now what it looks like on the 23rd of August, just hours after Prigozhin died. The camp has already largely been packed up completely. We don't know where it's going, and we don't know why it's being packed up, but there is a complete picture of the camp as it exists now, and you can see that almost every single tent at that camp that was housing the Wagner PMC is completely gone. We don't know where the Wagner soldiers are at the moment, but they have completely disappeared from this camp, and almost all traces of them have disappeared as well. So, while we're not hearing anything official, y'all can let your imaginations run wild, because we don't know what this really means, as to what this will turn into, because they're gone. I don't even think the Belarusians know where the Wagner is right now, because they have disappeared literally overnight. So we have no idea what's going on with them, but we have a pretty good idea of how the Russian government is going to be trying to spin this for damage control purposes. Putin actually came out and made a statement about Prigozhin today on Russian state television, and I consider this very important to cover. Along with the Russian news, I know that we try to avoid brain rot on this channel, so we usually cut out Russian propaganda, but I have to show you all this today because this story is being spun in a way that is complete bogus. And I'll actually go and show you all that as detailed as I can right when we get to that clip right after this one. But first, let's go to the statement that Putin made about Prigozhin today on Russian state TV. Here's the statement. And I'll also be reading the subtitles. I've known Yevgeny Prigozhin for a very long time, since the early 90s. He was a man of difficult fate, and he made serious mistakes in life. And he achieved the results he needed, both for himself and, when I asked him about it, for the common cause, as in these last months. He was a talented man, a talented businessman. As far as I know, he just returned from Africa yesterday and met with some officials here. But what is absolutely certain, the head of the investigative committee reported to me about it this morning. They have already begun a preliminary investigation of this incident, and it will be carried out in full. Now, that is a pretty cold-blooded way to go about killing your only political rival at this point inside of the whole country, is to come out and say something like this, because let's break the statements down here. It doesn't take a freaking psychological expert to look at these statements. There are some hidden threats in this little statement here. So let's mute it. And he says that he's known Prigozhin for a very long time, since the 90s, and he was a man of difficult fate, and he made some serious mistakes in life. That sounds like the most mobster way of saying that that Putin had him killed. In just the first sentence.
He's cold-blooded just to even come out and say what he said here in this entire statement. Because, knowing that he killed him, basically, if you do believe he's dead, that's wild. He just comes out and acts this calm about it.
Yeah, and look at this. And then he also goes on to say, and he achieved the results he needed, both for himself and when I asked, and this was the very interesting part, this next clip, for the common cause, as in these last months. Last month.
Yeah, you know what Putin did is he asked Wagner to stand down while he's holding their families hostage. So it's like he really didn't answer you in a nice way. He did it because he had to.
Well, no, you know what's very interesting about this statement here is that he says, as in these last months. The coup has happened in these last months. So it appears that what he's directly referencing right here is it's wonderful that he stood down and didn't go all the way into Moscow and overthrow the government. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to kill him for the mistakes he's made now. That's really how the first 30 seconds of this entire speech sounds to me, if you break down all of this political, wording. This is what it boils down to. I killed him. It's a good thing he stood down, otherwise I wouldn't have had the chance to kill him. That's pretty much how this comes across to me. But Russian propaganda is taking this a step farther. And we're actually going to take an extra moment here to dig through this one, because this was absolutely insane today. Russian state TV covered the story of Prigozhin being killed, and it was in the most bizarre way, and it was filled with the biggest lie that you will have ever seen. Also, let me turn this down so I can read the subtitles. A specially created commission for Robotyne started an investigation into the circumstances and the cause of the incident involving the plane Embraer 135 in the Tver region, with Yevgeny Prigozhin and Dmitry Utkin on board of the plane, among others. The airplane was owned by the enterprise M&T Aero, a company that specializes in business transportation, so it was a charter.
Oh.
So
So it wasn't his plane?
It was not his plane. He charters the private jets. He's not rich enough, apparently, to afford one, or he just never bought one himself.
So it is a plane sharing thing that I was talking about yesterday.
It is. You were completely right. It was a plane share program. On board of the plane that was en route from Moscow to St. Petersburg were 7 passengers and 3 crew members. The plane crashed from an altitude of 8,500 meters. The footage shows that it is falling without one wing. The bodies of those who perished in the crash, including those of Prigozhin and Utkin, were taken to the Tver Regional Bureau for forensic medical examination. Rosaviatsia's commission at the location of the incident, and also started to collect the documentation about the crew's training, the technical condition of the aircraft, and the meteorological conditions on the flight path, the work of air traffic control services, and the terrestrial radio technical equipment. Specialists are searching for an objective means of an onboard control to decipher and analyze the content of the black box. The investigative committee started a criminal investigation into the crash. The investigation into the crash of Prigozhin's jet will be conducted by the same investigator into matters of the utmost importance, who investigated the crash of a Sukhoi Superjet 100 in Sheremetyevo in 2019. Listen up. Now, this is a very interesting clip right here, and I'm going to turn up the audio, and I'm not going to say anything. Just listen to the sounds and watch the video, and then I'll tell y'all what this is.
Вверху самолет горит. И падает самолет. А?
Глянь.
Вон самолет падает. Он еще, видишь, что-то падает рядом есть. А он еще. А, это от него куски. 6.
So they're saying that's the video of Prigozhin's jet going down?
That's the thing. Let me take y'all through a little bit of a time traveling situation here, because according to the statement from Russian state TV, this is actually a video of Prigozhin's private jet being shot down. That's actually what they said before the video played, and then they played this video. So now, let me take y'all back in time to a simpler time in this channel, when 350,000 people or so, actually it was around 800,000 people in a single day, came onto this channel because the Russian Civil War looked like it was kicking off that day. So let's scroll all the way through all the streams that we've run, all the way back to that moment, and we can see Civil War begins and coup is over. You see this one right here? Let's click on this stream, and look at that. There is a map of every single thing that happened during the Russian Civil War. And these maps are important. because they have video and picture evidence in them. So let's go to the Russian rebellion map right there. And let's close down that. And also let's close down that. Well, we'll keep the Russian state TV thing up. We'll move this over here. And now, let's go to the area around Lipetsk. Because right in this clip, I swear we saw the same aircraft get shot down, and it was the Antonov 26. I swear this is a similar clip. I don't know. Maybe the Russians know more than me, but this video came out and was actually one of the aircraft that Prigozhin ordered to have shot down in the middle of the coup. So let's watch this one. And look at that. The plane is on fire, spiraling out of control, and a large plume of flame is coming from it. And notice the noise. Notice that loud
Mr.
whirring
Holmes,
noise.
you've cracked the case.
And we can see the Antonov 26 right there, spiraling to the ground. We can see the exact same limbs of the trees as it's still falling. And we can see the aircraft still falling and spiraling. And we can now see the pieces falling off. And let me show y'all this. These pieces are important. They're a very identifying part of the video. We're going to go back to this one. And we're going to go back to this specific part. And watch. The same pieces fall off of the plane. They went and took a video from 2 months ago from the coup itself. And a plane that the Wagner PMC shot down, and they are peddling this video, which a lot of the Russian public may have not seen, as video footage of Prigozhin's jet falling from the sky. Why?
What's the purpose, though?
Why? That's my question. Why are they doing that? There are loads of actual videos out there, and they've even shown about 5 to 10 second clips of them before this clip played of the actual jet going down. Why did they feel the need to lie on Russian state television, Russia 1, which is Russian news channel #1? Why did they feel the need to lie and get an old clip from the coup of one of the Russian Air Force's aircraft being shot down because of this? Now, I'm of course not one for conspiracy theories or anything, but this smells of fish to me. There is something weird going on here with the aircraft being shot down that we all know about, but the Russian public might not know about, is that the real video footage shows a massive smoke plume from where the aircraft originally went out of control that makes it clearly appear that Russian air defenses shot that jet down. This clip does not show that, and so they decided to show this one because it's more dramatized, it's more spectacular, and it doesn't show the full story that Russian air defenses in fact shot that jet down and it wasn't just some kind of a fluke accident. That's why they showed this clip.
Interesting.
It's absolutely insane. And paired with Putin's address that he made earlier today, it is damn near certain in my mind that the Russian government shot him down, has killed him. They have confirmed he's dead, and now they are going to try and spin the story so that way public outrage doesn't come up from the crash, and they're going to try and cover it up to the Russian public that they were the ones that killed Prigozhin. They're going to try and make this seem like it was some kind of an accident on the part of the company. Because notice this as well. They made sure at the beginning of this little news clip to say that this jet was run by a private company. They're already trying to get the private company lined up to take the blame for what happened. They're going to say it was some kind of mechanical failure or the pilots were incompetent. Hell, they might try and use a cocktail of all of these things to explain why the plane crashed. And they're never going to let the Russian public, at least on state TV, see the real footage of what happened to that jet. See, right there.
I'll be honest with you. I was thinking while I was watching this and you were explaining it, that to me, it seems like they're trying to cover it up like that there might be more to the story that we're not getting, that perhaps maybe he's still alive.
Well, maybe. I mean, it's a little bit of an off chance. Maybe he's still alive. But once again, I'm fairly certain that he is dead. Because the way Putin has made those statements, and also the fact that the second jet, we were able to confirm everyone who was on the second jet was in fact arrested. We don't know what's happened to those people, but they were arrested. And going off of that, I'm assuming that they just made sure to tie up the loose ends with the Wagner guys who were on the other plane, arresting them. But Prigozhin probably was in this jet when it was shot down. Because either way, whether they had shot the jet down with him in it or not, they were going to ensure that whoever was on that second jet, even if Prigozhin was on it, they were arrested immediately. And then if they wanted to, they could have taken him out to the forest and executed him outside of St. Petersburg. We don't know. Regardless, I think he's dead, whether he was on the second jet or not, because there was no way at that point they were escaping Russian wrath or the Russian authorities waiting for them in St. Petersburg. And so, with that, we can see a very interesting little story here unraveling inside of the Russian Federation, and it appears that they're beginning to try and tie up all the loose ends to the Russian public and make this appear a lot more clean than it really was. And not only that, we can see that the Russians are not going to be keeping things clean for long, as it now appears that they may have possibly even lost another Tu-22 at an airfield inside of the Kaluga Oblast, where we saw a Ukrainian S-200 get shot down, but we also saw some interesting stuff going on at the airfield in the area. There's the S-200 being hit by Russian air defense and shot down, one of the few times we've ever seen Russian air defense actually work. And with that, that's the end of that clip, but we're now going to be moving on to the next one, which shows air defense firing from the nearby airfield, and also some additional stuff, some additional info. We can see the missile firing. We now see the cameraman pan the camera away. We now see a missile airborne and hitting something, possibly. And we now see them running. And it sounded like something was coming towards them. We don't know if it was the engine of the S-200 or what, but fairly interesting to see that another airfield housing Tu-22M bombers is under attack. It's actually directly near this marker right here, near Sukhoi Sot, and I'll try and take y'all there real quick. Sukhoi Sot, come on, where's Kaluga? There we go, there's Kaluga. Then we just need to find Sukhoi Sot. Come on, load, load, load. Sukhoi Sot, Sukhoi Sot. Let's see here, there's an airfield in this area. Hang on. Wait a minute. It's right up here. It's actually this one right here at Tchaikovka. The marker was a little bit off, but at the moment, this airfield is housing some of the Tu-22 bombers. We can see what may be a Tu-22 right there. We can also see another Antonov 26, and we can see the rest of the Tu-22s right around here. So there they all are. They're actually there on satellite footage as well. And it appears that that airfield has come under attack. We don't know if any hits were scored, but we will be trying to get additional news on that as time goes by. I have a feeling that within the next 24 hours, we'll probably have some more definitive news on what happened at that airfield. But nevertheless, the Russian Air Force is now under attack, and it's kind of ironic, considering that they shot down Prigozhin's jet just yesterday, and now their jets are also being blown up. But that is all of the news that we have right now going on inside of Russia around the Wagner PMC, around Prigozhin's death, and also around the attacks that the Ukrainians are still conducting onto Russian infrastructure. And that means we have to move on into Germany. But before we get to Germany, I have noticed that the live chat has been going absolutely insane tonight. And while we did throw out a theory as to what happened inside of Russia and what happened with Yevgeny Prigozhin and everything surrounding the plane crash, a lot of y'all have also had your own theories as well. And we've tried to see what all of y'all are thinking as best as we possibly can. And Matthew, what's going on?
All right, so jumping into our first poll segment and question segment, our first one says, U.S. intel now believes that Prigozhin's jet was taken down with a bomb on board, and what are your thoughts? It looks like 40% said it could be true, but we need more evidence. 32% said it sounds likely, air defense is an unlikely option. 13% said unsure, and 16% said it sounds unlikely and no bomb on board. And to me on this one, it's kind of hard to tell at the moment. I would like to see some more evidence. From the video that we did see, the actual video that we believe is showing the jet going to the ground, it looks like maybe it could have been a bomb on board. Obviously, the thing was falling out of the sky like a rock, so it could be either way. So I'm going to sort of reserve judgment, but I'm leaning toward the bomb theory. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to lean towards a Russian air defense theory, because with how intact the aircraft was during its fall, it would be pretty odd to think that there was a bomb attached to it anywhere. Because if there was one, it must have been a small one, because it really only sheared off the vertical stabilizer, and then the rest of the aircraft was intact all the way until impact with the ground from what we could see on film. And so I'm still going to largely stick with Russian air defense did it, But it's not out of the question it's a bomb either. It just must have been a very small one because it only sheared off the vertical stabilizer. Usually, in historical instances where bombs were planted onto aircraft, and we're talking about sizable bombs, I'm not talking about laptop bombs or anything like that, I'm talking about an actual legitimate bomb, usually they have enough destructive power that they rip apart the fuselage where it is at in cruising altitude, and then the parts of the plane come falling to the ground. Of course, there will be a very large intact part of the fuselage still, usually the front part, as the bombs are placed, historically, from what we can tell, more towards the rear of the aircraft. That still doesn't really look like, from the video footage we're seeing, in my opinion, that it was a bomb, considering the usual way the bombs are planted on other aircraft, for example, when there are terrorist attacks, and what kind of damage we see from that. So I'm still going to go with Russian air defense. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And also, some people did note that the U.S. said at first that they believe it was a missile from the ground that took it down, which it would have been air defense. And then they later came out and said that it was apparently a bomb on board. So there is a split in the U.S. intel community as to what they properly conclude happened. But once again, it's only preliminary. These are basically guesswork by the U.S. intel people right now. And really, they should have probably waited until they had some more evidence. But, you know, they're giving their initial thoughts. And also, by the way, something that nobody's mentioned up to this point is nobody's mentioned a word about black boxes. I know sometimes private jets don't carry black boxes, but in this case, with it being a larger jet, I think it might have had one on board, and not a single soul, a Russian, Ukrainian, U.S. person, anyone, has mentioned where's the black boxes at. And that's kind of suspicious to me as well.
And also, another thing that we are getting from the Russian media is that they're saying that there's going to be an investigator on that will be looking for the black boxes. But once again, we don't really know if it has a black box on board or not. We would assume so, but that may not be the case. And also, considering that...
Well, they'd already found it. They've already looked at the wreckage. It's either there or it isn't.
That's true. You know, Matthew, what they might do is that they might find the black boxes and go, shh, take that to the sea and throw it into the ocean, Blair. Do not let anyone hear or see what's on that black box. That may be what they do. Because if we actually heard the cockpit audio, I bet you would probably hear something akin to some kind of an explosion, and that's probably what they don't want people to hear. Or we may even see that they come out with a completely doctored black box that makes it seem like it was some kind of an accident. But regardless, I hope we addressed that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll says, if you were in charge, would you have allowed the Ukrainian recon mission to Crimea, as we saw in the video? 77% said yes, I would have allowed it. 9% said unsure, 7% said only with air support added, and 7% said it's too risky, and I would have said no. And I have to say that the recon mission seemed pretty risky to me. They sent them in with no air support, it looked like, and they were basically at the mercy of the Russian aircraft. I'm not sure if they knew the Russians had the aircraft ready to go when they went in, but it seemed almost like a mission doomed to failure to me from the looks of it, because they were very lucky not to get hit by that aircraft fire, and they were right out in the open. So if the mission was only for recon purposes, or is just for a morale booster, I'm not sure if I would have sanctioned that, but, you know, maybe they know something that we don't, and it was more important than it looks like, and they justified it, but I really can't tell. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that, what happened? Reread the line.
It says, if you were in charge, would you have allowed the Ukrainian recon mission to Crimea?
Yes, I would have. While it was a dangerous mission, that is what the special forces are for, and I believe that what they have gathered is very valuable information on how weak Russian defenses around Crimea and Russian recon is in the area, which the Ukrainians could use to great advantage. They may have been able to find, with those special forces, new channels and routes for their submersible drones to take to be able to get much closer to Russian naval targets than they would have been able to otherwise. Not only that, they're starting to survey the area and figure out what kind of Russian forces are there, what their abilities are, and considering that they were fired at by aircraft and were very lucky to not get hit directly by one of those shells, because it certainly would have sunk the boat. But they also got to tell that the Russians apparently are running out of ammunition to give the aircraft that are based inside of Crimea, which is a very telling thing, because that may also suggest that the Russian Black Sea Fleet is probably also in similar shape as far as ammunition goes. So I would say that it certainly was something I would have approved, and I think that as far as its information gathering went, it was a massive success. Far more massive than one could have ever imagined it to be at the start. But with that,
I mean, couldn't they have gotten the same info from, the U.S.? Because we take satellite photos of those areas each and every day. So it's like, what did they see from the boat that they couldn't have known from the satellite imagery?
Well, one thing that satellite imagery may not be able to tell is, do the Russians have microphones installed on the seabed floor to pick up the noise of boats moving through the area? That's something that we can't see on satellite or really any other way. Another thing is what do the Russian forces there actually look like if we came into contact with them? That's something you really can't tell from satellite footage either, is while you could see a vehicle here and there, are those vehicles evenly spread out? Do the coastal defense forces have vehicles at all, or are they just light infantry? Those are things you can't really tell from satellite footage. And so the idea of sending the recon team there was important on the intel gathering side in those regards, because if they can tell that they have no way to detect boats moving through that area, and apparently they don't have a microphone relay anywhere underwater. And by the way, some of y'all are probably like, what the hell, that sounds stupid. Well, actually, we have one. The US has one. We have one spanning almost the entire area of the northwestern Atlantic, and that's also how the US Coast Guard Navy knew that the Titan submersible had blown up long before the search had even begun for the submersible, is because those microphone relays had actually picked up the sound of the implosion. Beyond that, they were actually put there to listen for Russian submarines that are moving into the northwestern Atlantic near the United States, so that way we knew they were there and exactly where they were in the North Atlantic. Apparently, the Russians don't have anything like that, even on a small scale, around the coast of Crimea, because those boats made it all the way to Crimea and then engaged Russian land forces in an ad hoc engagement, and then they retreated from the peninsula after that. So they don't have any defensive microphone systems like that, so we know that they're pretty weak in that regard, and we know that that means that Ukrainian kamikaze boats can move through that area, and we know that the Russians have no way to see them unless they physically spot them with the naked eye. There's going to be nothing that they can do beyond that. So as far as that goes, that's why it was important. And also another thing that's very important is that it's huge for propaganda. Because, of course, and I'm not saying that the Ukrainians pump out propaganda all day, but that's largely what everyone does in a war, is that they want some things to be proud of. The moon landing in the Cold War is kind of an American form of propaganda. I mean, like, hell, you can't deny that the United States was on top of its game. It literally sent dozens of people to the nearest object in space successfully multiple times. I mean, that's a pretty big success if I've ever seen one, and a big propaganda boost for the United States and a morale boost as well. And it served that purpose, because not only did it show the Russians were weak and they got a lot of valuable intelligence out of it, it's also a spectacle. I mean, these guys went all the way to Crimea, set up a flag, took some pictures, and then drove all the way back, and every single one of them survived the mission. So in multiple,
Like they say, a big success.
great success, but that's why I would say I would approve the mission, because it was a massive success in every single metric and did not go poorly at all. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and that being said, we are fresh out of poll questions. I almost forgot what I was saying there, but moving on to our super chat questions, we have a very generous $60 donation from Duncan VR. And thank you very much, Duncan, for that very generous support, as always. And he said, Bamuba. And of course, it did a Baba fantastic Ba sheep sound yesterday. Baba. He does it better than Matt. Oh, I'm telling you. Ba mu quack. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Have you ever wanted Baba mu quack? Wait a minute. Prigozhin is gone. They're just covering up the truth. Baba, no respect. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Run, Scoob.
Like sewing Scoobs, I think we're going for Raggy. Pray. But anyways, thank you for the support, Duncan, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I did do a pretty okay sheep sound last night, because you got to. You know, it's not that hard. Anyone can do it. But I always like to make a little noise here and there. You know, hell, I love listening to myself talk, the haters say. But still, I gotta thank you so much once again for the support, Duncan VR. And of course, throwing in the traditional super chat with the animal noises in it, because it's iconic. It's a channel tradition at this point. And if we didn't have you in here tonight, Duncan VR, throwing in that super chat with the animal noises, it wouldn't be a normal night. And so thank you so much once again, and also thank you for throwing in a super chat and supporting this channel, because folks who do support the channel help us to make this thing possible, and we greatly appreciate you and everyone else who throws in the super chat, because it does help us keep this thing rolling. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. Hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've got a second super chat. This one is from Tony Fleming, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Tony, for that very generous support as well. And he said, just for the hell of it, and Dio Presso Liba.
Hey, and Dio Preso Libre. Libre or Libre? It looks like Libre. To me.
Lieber.
But still, thank you so much for the support, Tony. And Tony, drive the freaking car, blip! And they all get in the crash, and they're all spilled out onto the road like a kid who dropped his bowl of cereal in the morning and then puked all over the floor. Man, I gotta tell you, oh man, I'm telling you. But still, thank you for supporting the channel just for the hell of it, because you supporting this channel just for the hell of it helps us to keep this thing rolling. And I cannot stress that enough. Y'all support makes this thing possible, and we are greatly appreciative to you, Tony, as well as Nike VR and everyone else who supported the channel tonight for helping this thing to be possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Tony. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the last question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the German news, which we're going to cover very briefly, and then we're going to be getting on into the frontline news.
All right, and our third super chat goes to Drunky Monkey, who puts in a $50 donation as well, and thank you very much, Drunky, for that very generous support also. And he said, Hiram Slava, Happy Independence Day, and Slava Ukraine, and long live the LSA. And please take a live chat question.
And Slava Ukraine, the Heroam Slava, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army never dies. And thank you so much once again, Drunky Monkey, for supporting this channel and helping us to keep this thing rolling, because folks like you make it possible. And so, thank you so much once again, and we will make sure to get ourselves a live chat question. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, and the live chat question is going to go to Lawrence Todd, who says, if they reach Tokmak, is there a way for Russians to supply the army in the West?
Reread the line.
If they reach Tokmak, is there a way for the Russians to reach let me start over. If they reach Tokmak, is there a way for Russians to supply the army in the West?
Yes, the M14 highway would still be operational and open, although it certainly would be within range of almost all Ukrainian artillery pieces at that point, probably including the M777 as well, although we'll have to check and see once they take Tokmak. But beyond that, they would be able to supply their forces to the west. Tokmak is really just the major milestone in being able to reach Melitopol. Melitopol is the final goal, and it's really the only way to be able to cut off Russian forces in the west from resupply is to take Melitopol itself. Tokmak is really just a furtherance of getting to that point to cut them off. And so, with that, I hope that does address that live chat fairly well. And thank you so much, Drunky Monkey, for supporting that live chat. That was a really good one. And, of course, once again, to reiterate it, they will have to reach Melitopol to cut off the Russians in the west from resupply. If they don't do that, the M14 will still be open and supplies will still be flowing. And so with that, thank you so much once again to all three of y'all.
Yes, indeed. Big thanks. Also, real quick, before we move on to the next segment, I want to say that this just came out. The Pentagon believes that Prigozhin was quote-unquote likely killed in the plane crash, and there's no direct evidence linking that Prigozhin was actually on board the crash except for the flight manifest, and at the moment there's nothing indicating otherwise, but they're saying that only he was likely, and they can't say with certainty he was actually on it.
Well, that's what a lot of people have been saying, because we've never seen the chart.
Well, now the Pentagon's saying it.
Well, yeah, but the Pentagon also says, a whole bunch of things that aren't necessarily true, like the F-16s will come this year, and then,
Oh, yeah, but that's different, though. If they had intel, because, they're privy to intel that we don't have, then they would not say likely. They would say that he was killed in the crash. There's no reason not to confirm that.
Well, I mean, we'll see. But anyways, with that, we will see. We will wait and see. I'm pretty sure he's dead, but maybe the Pentagon knows a little bit more than me. They do this as a job after all. Not just me, I do it as a job, but they do it as a bit more of a job. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you to all three of y'all once again for the support and help this channel to keep on running. And thank you to everyone who throws in the super chat, because y'all are really the only way we can keep these streams running ad-free, sponsor-free, and run it the way we've always run it. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into Germany really quickly, because we have heard that the Germans have given more support, more German support. Geschlechtverleihungen! They have sent 16 Zetros, 40 RQ-35s, and 10 drone detection systems, and also 500,000 rounds of small arms ammo. 500,000 rounds of small arms ammo will last me about 5 minutes, but it's great to hear that they are sending more equipment. Moving on from that and on into our location unknowns, we've also had a couple of interesting clips today. Starting off with our first one, showing the Ukrainians using cluster bombs as munitions for a drone. Epic intro. It's from the 92nd Brigade. Musketoon. And look, it's a cluster shell. Or a cluster bomb, more so.
От у нас є снаряд з великою кількістю 80 штук суббоєприпасів всередині. Зараз його спеціальна людина буде пиляти. Мені вже лячно.
Сантиметра 4.
Від пояска цього.
I mean, you see them doing a little bit of a fine work here. You can see them, you know, pointing out some stuff with their finger about where they're going to cut. And we can see Mr. Sawzall come out. They're going to get to work. And honestly, they got the front cone off.
Красиво буде.
And I don't know why, but that guy sounded like a goblin. Yeah, I was about to say that, man. He went, Adesila.
Так красиво буде.
Yeah, he
Damn. All right, Golem.
Not precious.
Ай, які галічки.
Отут вони суббоєприпаси
That's pretty cool looking.
Це в нас.
Dude, it's the forbidden, everlasting gobstopper. Good lord.
Oh.
Отут вони суббоєприпаси стоять. Це в нас голова з кришкою. Оце суббоєприпаси.
Дивись, Льох. Да, десь 4-5, чуєш?
Якщо його
You now see him pulling out one of the tubes.
маємо отакий от.
And we can see what these little cluster bombs look like. And look at that, it's just full of bomblet goodness, freely made. You don't even have to put any effort into these things, just saws all the shell, and these things start coming out. Look at that, it's incredible.
Дивимося внимательно. Я починаю крутити, вона переводиться в бойове. Все. Зараз воно в бойово.
The Ukrainians observing the little bomblet greatly and observing how it works.
Планочку. Соответственно, назад ставимо цю чеку.
Как она ставится?
Так же само, як і вбиралась.
Просто защелкивается и все, да?
Да. Все. Вона в безпечному.
And we see them playing around with it more. My anxiety keeps growing the longer they have this thing in their hands, because it is a bomb after all. And now he's going to start rocking it around just to make sure everyone's really freaked out and on edge.
Ну, я считаю, її краще взводить на позицію.
You can tell by this guy's tone. We may not know what he's saying, but dude, he literally just said in Ukrainian, he's like, oh, dude, hear me out. And he's going to explain how they can use this thing as a drone bomblet.
Але якщо ти на позиції
It's always healthy to have a little bit of fear in you.
то поставив чеку на місце, замотав ізолентою, і воно спокійно, да, безпечно можеш їздити туди-сюди.
Now we can see them trying to figure out how to put it onto the drone, and now they're clipping it in.
Ставимо, притискаємо і обов'язково перевіряємо, щоб воно там ніде не вешталося туди-сюди.
I gotta tell you, man, sometimes I think some Ukrainian soldiers have gone insane with what they do. This is one of those moments.
Yeah, they've been so desensitized, they literally don't realize the bomb is right there.
The bomb knows where it is because it knows where it isn't. The Ukrainians know where the bomb is because they're holding it, and everyone doesn't want to see it going where it shouldn't go.
За потреби завжди ще можна поняти, типу, підтягнути. Типу, підтягнути, да, оці очі стабілізуючі.
Super Action Channel said, this is kind of scary. Yeah, it's really scary, really. But I like how
But
that...
the real question is, will it blend?
That's a good question. Also, Matthew, another question is, does that alien have that Cossack drip? And the answer is yes, he has that Cossack haircut.
Буде, типу, ворухнути.
An alien, man, it looks like a bunch of shapes.
Bunch of shapes. What the hell? That's an alien,
tell
man.
what the hell that is.
Straight from Area 51. Can't you tell? Well, did you?
A little bit.
Ні, це вже, ну, типу...
And you see them prepping the cluster bomblets to blow up once they, you know, make it to where they're supposed to be. I gotta tell you, this is nerve-wracking.
А хто його знає?
Super Action Joe said, no cap? No cap. No cap.
Ні, цей не...
Заряджений, якщо він закручений.
Цей не відкручений.
Не відкручений.
Так і буде. Так і буде.
Good lord, man. Oh my god.
Пошли з нами.
I mean, you hear them all joking around because they know what kind of mortal danger they certainly are in.
Знову закриваємо його,
Щоб,
ставимо
типу, у зведеному положенні ніхто його, має хлопці, не ставить, тому що, ну, типу... Навіть по штатці, наскільки я знаю, сапер не положено на... От в мене відділення, да, в мене саперне водій положено, сапер не положено.
And we see him now putting the bomblets back in.
Ну так воно ж так у всіх, хлопці.
Good lord above! I can't handle this, man. This is like actually giving me some good anxiety here.
I'm getting so anxious.
Man, I'm getting anxious. Man, they scaring me. Oh, they may have gotten it ready. Holy moly. They actually got that thing set up, so they're going to be sending it off now. They set the thing down gently. They know what they're dealing with. This is insane, man. This is crazy.
At least they're backing away from him when it's taking off.
Dude, they're treating that thing like a fireworks on the 4th of July. Oh, there goes the bomblet. Does it work? Oh my lord, they work! Like a normal bomblet. No assembly required.
Wow.
That is actually incredible. I didn't think they'd actually work for some reason.
And they hit nothing.
I think they're just testing it out for now, but yeah, they didn't hit anything, it seems. They're just hitting an empty part of a railroad track. But we can't see any Russian forces or equipment here. But the thing freaking works, which is the most impressive part.
All of that risk for nothing, man. They just blew up an empty field.
Well, they had to see if it works.
They could have tested on some Russians.
Кидали в яму, там лежить картончик. Зараз подивимося, що у нас по ураженню.
And now we can see the craters that they left behind, and they were...
Насправді...
There's no way in hell that is the crater left behind by a 40mm bomblet. There's no way. Because this looks like a damn meteorite hit. Yeah, it wasn't left. That's the actual crater size about right there.
Бо чисто пробиття, а це був кумулятивно-осколковий, його трішки розкидало. Що ми бачимо на картоні? На картоні ми бачимо відстань десь 1,5 метра. Раз, два, три, чотири.
And with that, that's the end of that clip. But I gotta tell y'all, I'm blown away by Ukrainian ingenuity. Moving on from that, we also got another picture of that Mi-8 that the Russian defected with yesterday. We actually got 2 of them right there. Really cool to see. And moving on from that little bit of location unknown news, we're also going to be moving on to our next one, where we saw the Ukrainians conducting high-tech anti-drone warfare. Observe. No, Vadim, get the bigger stick. Oh, okay.
Або в'їби, або не в'їби.
They got it! Oh my god, dude, that's hilarious. Dude, I love how they have the tiny stick first. Like, you can tell. Like, watch. No, get the bigger one. Oh, okay, man. Wait, hang on. How about this one?
Yeah, they got some good aim too. It's like they hit it both times. The first try.
Oh man, dude, I gotta admit, man, that was a pretty funny way to take out a drone right there. And the thing sounded like a little dog, like it went like when it fell.
Oh man, taking out with sticks—that's an insult.
Man, that really is. So, what is the return on investment, Matthew, on that one for the Ukrainians? $0 spent. Just a stick, and they took out a $2,000 drone. I mean, literally, the effects of that was priceless. I mean, like, hell, they didn't even have to put in an investment on that one.
The insult to their, morale and stuff was worse than the actual drone getting taken down, probably.
Dude, you know the Russian, man, on the other side of that? 1 second. I gotta go find this, man. Well, let me keep this as a surprise to the audience. Let's see. Let me make sure not say it out loud.
You just hear a Russian across the field yell, "Blyat!"
No. Where I found it, man. I found it. This was the let me make sure that we don't show anything weird here.
Romania.
Oh yeah, we don't want to show Romania. Dude, this is literally what the Russian drone operator on the other end looks like right now. That's what he looks like.
No, there's that one of him laying down, like in the pillow right there with the tears, listening to the music.
Oh yeah, that's probably him too, man. He's sitting in his outpost in there. Oh man,
Damn.
taken out by a stick. The disrespect is palpable. Moving on from that into the next one, we also got to see some pictures of some Finnish volunteers. And really cool. I mean, I didn't even really know that there were a lot of Finnish volunteers in Ukraine, but we're starting to find out there are. And they've been doing some work, apparently, as the pictures show. Pretty neat all around. And great to see that.
Got nice guns, too.
Oh, yeah, man. You know that you got to be dripping with those guns. When you want to win, you hire a Finn. I'm gonna have to pay
Facts.
you. I'm gonna have to pay you like some kind of a royalty for that one. But moving on from that, we also got the Russian casualty report, and it was a fairly interesting one at that. 340 Russian soldiers have been knocked out over the past 24 hours. That's actually a fairly low number, but the numbers in most other categories were pretty good today. 23 armored personnel carriers, 28 supply trucks, only 2 tanks, 15 artillery pieces, 20 drones, an MLRS, 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems, and 1 Bobcat skid steer. Only 1.
Only 1. Man, I'm like focused on that shirt. That shirt over there is wild. Do you see that?
Man, man, I'm telling you.
Damn.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
Damn, son, where'd they make that and find that? Good
Man,
Lord.
I don't know what message that's trying to send, but I think if you
Really?
get pulled over by the cops there, I don't I don't know if they're going to be friendly much. But anyways, moving on from that, very interesting casualty report there. Matthew distracted me with what was in the comment section, which I was going to just ignore. But moving on from that and up into the area of Drovchina, we got to see that the Russian Volunteer Corps has offered the Wagner an interesting deal. I'm going to let y'all see the clip, because of course it's the news after all. We show clips of things here. And so, here's the video. The red light gives them a very ominous look. And the guy who leads the RDK, he's pretty much telling the Wagner that if they join them, they'll both team up to go take down Putin. You know, take it for what you will.
Либо стать в стойло Министерства обороны Российской Федерации и служить цепными псами для палачей ваших командиров, или отомстить. Чтобы отомстить, вам нужно перейти на сторону Украины. Если вы не совершали военных преступлений,
And the speech goes on.
вас в наши ряды. Давайте вместе закончим кровавую мясорубку СВО, а потом отправимся маршем на Москву. И в этот раз не будем останавливаться за 200 километров от МКАД, а дойдем до конца.
And that's the end of the clip, but that's largely their offer. You know, in case of y'all, didn't know it was an offer. Probably none of us can actually speak any Russian because that guy is actually speaking Russian. So, largely it was just an offer for the Wagner to join the RDK. Will they take him up on that? I don't know. I mean, if you actually get into their values, I think the Wagner and the RDK are kind of similar a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe they'll have a calling. I don't know. But anyways, we're moving on from that and into the area of Drovchina, where we saw a Ukrainian BMP on the move towards the front lines. And there's the same song that's been playing for a year and a half. But when you see the BMP driving down the street, and when you see this guy wearing a Ukrainian tanker helmet, and man, this video just makes me feel. But anyways, with that, that's the end of the clip. Great to see. And we're going to be moving on from the northeastern area. Of course, no frontline movement. And down in Crimea, where there also has been no frontline movement, but we did get to see a little bit of a clip of the fighting going on in that area. And also, let me turn up the audio, because the audio is very interesting. There goes a shell flying right overhead and exploding in the forest. And we hear the Ukrainian got a little bit of a laugh out of that. He went,
That's a laugh when you really don't want to laugh, but you gotta.
Yeah, dude, he's like, I gotta play it cool.
правда, рассказывать, сколько раз я за сегодня валялся на полу и молился Богу. То уже такое нюансы. Мир вашему дому.
And of course, the Battle of Crimea Forest continues on, with really no progress being made by the Russians, and the Ukrainians are holding them strong. There was absolutely no video footage that came out today from Bakhmut, so we're not even going to be addressing that part of the front line. It's largely status quo. Moving on out of Bakhmut and moving past the Donetsk area, we are now in the southern front again. Of course, we'll be skipping the Robotyne news, we covered that earlier, but over here near Volodar, we heard the return of someone that y'all haven't heard from in a while. Igor!
День Незалежності України. Не обіцяємо вам.
Із медіар, блядь!
вражені пробачі цілі, але
And we can see a Russian vehicle burning in the field.
ударних безпілотних авіаційних комплексів «Птахи Мадяра» знищено чи вражено 10 хробачих одиниць техніки, в тому числі 5 броньованих, ну а інші, які вже прийшлося. День не закінчений. З днем народження, Україна!
And with that, that's the end of that clip. But, of course, the return of Madyar. Moving on from that and towards Pavlivka, we also saw Ukrainian forces fighting inside of Pavlivka, showing that they are advancing. Our frontline map has been slightly inaccurate in this area. It's shown that they've been down near Yaharivka, but that was including no man's land. Apparently, the Russians did have defensive positions set up inside of Pavlivka, although it's been registered as no man's land on Deep State UA and Live UA map for months at this point, and the Ukrainians are now fighting them and pushing them out of the town. But here's the clip. Ooh! We can see the artillery of the Ukrainians landing onto the village, attempting to obrutsy Ruski, and we can now see the Ukrainian APC right there. Actually, that looks like an MRAP. We can see the Ruski Mir over here, and we can see the Ukrainian Ched MRAP devastating the Ruski Mir. Insert corn.
That freak on the leash.
Yeah, man, that freak on a leash, you know what I mean?
But what about the freak off the leash?
Let's see, who in the world would
That's
that
Putin.
be? But anyways, we can see the MRAP still sitting there. It's laying down fire towards the Russians inside that house. The Ukrainians, of course, just laying them low, as they do. It's their thing. And they're still doing it. They're still going at it. When you see all of the dust coming off the house from the impacts of the 50 cal that's hitting the walls, of course, turning them into literal residue. I can't come up with a word. But with that, that's the end of the clip. And great to see that the Ukrainians are continuing to push the Russians back, even near Pavlivka. Moving on into the area of Staromayorsk, we didn't get any actual frontline clips today, but we did see one clip near Staromayorsk showing a Russian main battle tank being hit on a road by an FPV drone. Here is the drone, there is the tank, and of course, the combination is sublime. Also, by the way, hey, did y'all notice that that is a T-62? Well, now y'all do. Now watch the drone run into the back of the turret with the crew sitting on top, and they're all good and gone. They're taking naps, and they've clocked out of work. Poof. And then we can see the outro card there giving me a little bit of an epileptic fit and a headache. And so moving on from that and into the next clip near Zayda, we also got to see a Russian T-80 tank burning in a field. This is actually a separate main battle tank, but from the battlefield today. By the way, I think this was filmed by the Russians, but I can't really tell. Or this may be the Ukrainians, because it's a little camouflage net on the APC. But we see the T-80 burning up there quite quickly, actually. That thing is a roaring flame. And we also see them firing a machine gun from the vehicle onto the road, probably trying to clear out mines if there are any. And that's the end of the clip, but another T-80 BV up in flames. Very disappointing for the Russians. Good day for Ukraine. Moving on from that and over into the area of Lubkovy, we also got to see a Russian soldier surrender today. He decided to give up. Kind of a smart move at this point in the war, so I can't really blame him. You know, we kind of encouraged that a little, so why would I blame him? But here's the clip.
Без резких движений, стоп! Броню снимай!
You see the Russian reaching for something. And this is about the point where you would be unloaded on. Don't rage! But anyways, we now see the Russian taking off his helmet. Also appears he's taking off his rig.
So stop resisting. Oh.
Right now, I could just see this, Matthew. Put your hands up, turn around, get down! Like all that stuff. Just man!
Yes.
But
the key is you have to start calm. Okay, put your hands up, put your hands up. That's right, that's right. Stop resisting, hey! Go berserk.
Now
he's being a little too crazy.
Uh-oh. He's panicking. Uh-oh. Oh, he's being detained.
I don't know how to listen.
Dude, this guy just pulled the sickest gritty. Look at this.
Контроль ствола!
That was a sick gritty. I mean, like, but they got the guy. So he's now going to be detained. He'll be sent to a POW camp, and all will be good. The war is over for this guy. A little bit stressful there near the end, but hey, at least it didn't go wrong. You know, the Russians do that pretty often. But with that, it's now time for us to move on from the southern front and over towards Kherson, because Kherson had a little bit happen today. There were 2 clips that came out of Kherson, and both of them were pretty interesting. We got to see a Tunguska and a Brim get destroyed today in this area. We haven't heard a lot about Ukrainian advances. We do know the Ukrainians are still holding their usual footholds on the southern side of the river, and we can see that they're still inflicting losses. For example, this Tunguska and the Brim. They're sitting right by each other, and that sounds like the Beauty and the Beast story, the Tunguska and the Brim. But anyways, we can see the Ukrainians starting to side up the 2 of them for a nice little hit. We see them dropping a bomblet onto the Tunguska, which goes straight through the turret. We see a second one for good measure. That one actually ignites the ammo inside the turret, and we now see them going for the Brim. First one hits dead center of the Brim. We see a third one and a fourth one. And we now see the Brim and the Tunguska destroyed. Very nice to see. And some expensive equipment. A Tunguska is not cheap. They're like 15 million. And so, moving on from that and into the next clip, we also got to see that the Ukrainians, for Ukrainian Independence Day, actually set up a Ukrainian flag with a massive amount of balloons and sent it off to go on its way across the entire occupied area of Ukraine. So that way all the Ukrainians can know that there are still soldiers singing about them and probably will be meeting them soon. A little bit of foreshadowing. When you see them moving the flag into position.
Oh, they're letting the flag touch the ground. Oh my goodness.
Oh man, burn it! Cut the stars out and burn it! And there goes the flag. Hype. Dude, the Russians are going to be like that crying Squidward when they see that thing flying over them and they can't shoot it down because it has no heat signature, no nothing. They're going to be going...
Валимо від селя! Зі святом усіх! Слава Україні!
Man, I feel like the Slava Ukraini Heroem Slava thing is literally ingrained in people's heads at this point, man. When you hear Slava Ukraini, everyone just goes, Heroem Slava. It's like a reflex. Like, people don't even think about it. But anyways.
Indeed, it's like Pavlov effect.
I know, man. I was like, is the supper ready? But anyways, we can see the flag flying off, and hopefully it'll be causing a lot of Russians intentional infliction of emotional distress, which is apparently a tort. We're now going to be moving on from that little clip, and it's now time for us, speaking of Ukrainian Independence Day, which is now a day over, actually, here in the Western world, but it happened, I believe, largely today for Ukraine. You know, if we're trying to make the timetables work worldwide, Zelensky made an address about Ukrainian Independence Day, and it was a little special. It wasn't your normal speech. And so if you usually log off for the speech, I'd highly suggest that you stay on for a little moment, because this little address was really special today, and it was a big day for the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian nation, as it is the Ukrainian Independence Day. So he made a special little address for it. And so with that, here is the clip. It's a little lengthy. I don't even know if it's a speech. It's more like a... Well, it is a speech, but it's an epic speech at that. So let me make sure to get our subtitles up, and they are in English, so here we go.
Великий народе великої України, що відзначає сьогодні великий день, День Незалежності, свято вільних людей, свято сильних людей, свято гідних, свято рівних. Українців та українок, усіх, в усій нашій державі. Сьогодні ми відзначаємо 32-гу річницю нашої незалежності, незалежності України. Це цінність для кожного з нас, і за це ми боремось. І в цій боротьбі важливий кожен, бо ця боротьба за те, що важливо кожному, це незалежна Україна. У великій війні немає маленьких справ, немає непотрібних, немає неважливих. Це стосується і людей, і дій, і слів. Коли ми відзначаємо незалежність України, кожен може відчути у ній себе. Кожен може спитати у себе, а де ти в українській незалежності? А що твого додалося незалежності? А чим ти допоміг незалежності? І сьогодні я хочу присвятити це привітання саме тобі. Тобі, хто дає Україні незалежність. Тобі, воїне, ти став на захист України. Я дякую кожному солдату і матросу, кожному сержанту і старшині, кожному офіцеру, кожному генералу. Вам, батькові українського воїна, вам, матері українського захисника, усім українським родинам, які виховали у своїх дітях любов до України і відвагу боронити її щосили. Я дякую кожному, хто чекає рідних з фронту, кожному, хто щодня молиться за них, хто телефонує або пише таке важливе, як ти, аби почути таке бажане, все добре, таке цінне, я тебе кохаю. Наш син зробив учора перший крок. Доці сьогодні сказала: тато, кожне слово важливе. І важливий кожен, хто робить так, аби це слово могло бути сказане і почуте. Хто забезпечує в країні зв'язок між людьми. І це більше, ніж просто комунікація, це зв'язок із життям. Слова підтримки, слова подяки. І, на жаль, слова, які є найбільш болісними на війні. Його більше немає. Чимало українців втратили через війну близьких. Герої, завдяки яким ми не втратили Україну. Я дякую і вклоняюсь перед кожним і кожною із них. Минулого тижня я відвідав наші бойові бригади, командні пункти розташування бригад, і є те, що об'єднує їх усі. Нашим воїнам допомагає одна додаткова унікальна броня. Броня людяності, броня щирості. Це дитячі малюнки. Їх можна побачити в кожній бригаді, на стінах, в кімнатах. Малюнки для батька чи брата, або для солдатів, яких дитина може навіть не знати, але яких підтримує, бо це українські солдати. І це для них головна мета наступу, де кожен крок вперед такий важливий, але крок назад такий неможливий. Бо позаду саме ви, наші діти, українські діти, саме ви, хто створює ці малюнки. І я хочу сказати тобі, кожному хлопчику і кожній дівчинці, ти не уявляєш, наскільки це важливо, коли ти підтримуєш наших бійців. Я дякую тобі. Я дякую кожній українській матері, для якої наша держава є і залишиться домом. Попри те, що через війну довелось поїхати. І коли в будь-якій країні мама дає своїй дитині книжку українською, щоб дитина не втратила себе і свого, коли мама вчить української, коли переживає за Україну і чекає новин з України, чекає, щоб можна було повернутися. Це найважливіше, бо ви важливі, всі українці, де б не довелось зараз бути. Я хочу подякувати всім українським вчителям, які працюють, які змогли працювати навіть онлайн, які будують освічене майбутнє навіть там, де ворог зруйнував школи. І кожен, хто творить дива наживо. Тисячі українських медиків, які рятують тисячі життів. Українські лікарі, медичні сестрички, медичні брати, бойові медики. Ті, хто 24/7 не відпускає життя і бореться за нього. Незалежно від того, чи є сирена повітряної тривоги, незалежно від того, чи є приліт, незалежно від того, чи ти на фронті, чи ти в цивільному житті. Я дякую вам. Дорогі народи України, минулої зими ми пережили масовані ракетні атаки, загрозу блекауту, були різні моменти, коли міста стояли у темряві, коли був холод, була і незламність, і коли наші люди працювали і повертали світло, тоді було і гучне «Слава Україні!», «Слава українським електрикам!». І підіймали келихи за ППО та наших енергетиків, і це абсолютна правда. Наші енергетики працювали цілодобово під час повітряних тривог, іноді під обстрілами, завжди у небезпеці, завжди, знаючи, як світла чекають в лікарнях, на оборонних підприємствах, і як світла і тепла чекає кожна родина. Але, на жаль, є родини, які не дочекались додому батька, сина, брата, звичайного електрика, працівника ремонтної бригади, рятувальника, поліцейського, пожежника. Всіх, хто загинув під час виконання службових обов'язків, хто допоміг зробити найважливіше – не дозволив російській темряві зламати нас, нашу державу, нашу свободу, нашу незалежність. І у світлі, і у темряві з нами були наші новини, наші українські журналісти. З нами була правда, і світ чув Україну. Я дякую всім, хто поширює правду про Україну і про цю війну різними мовами світу. Але окремо я хочу сказати сьогодні про тих, про кого поки не можна говорити в новинах, чиї імена відомі небагатьом, але чия робота помітна усім. Наші ракети, українські снаряди, наші гармати, українські дрони, лелеки, фурії, морські дрони, нептуни, корсари, стугни. Ми виробляємо все це. Українці виробляють все це. І коли ми пишаємось, що потопили флагман ворожого флоту крейсер «Москва», коли радіємо влучанням по Кримському мосту, тоді ми дякуємо і тим, про кого зараз теж не скажеш, імена не назвеш, але про кого в майбутньому напишуть книжки, обов'язково знімуть кіно, про тих, кого я нагороджую закритими указами і хто здійснює найскладніші операції. Дякую вам. Ви всі важливі. Як і кожен з тих, хто не має права на помилку, хто розміновує наші території, наші міста і села, наші поля, хто засіває поля попри обстріли, хто попри обстріли збирає урожай, хто доставляє його по країні, аби у нас був хліб, хто попри небезпеку везе українське зерно залізницею, дорогою, морем в багато інших країн, аби у світі не було голоду. Важливий кожен, хто працює і дає роботу іншим, сплачує податки, за які забезпечується військо, оборона, рух вперед і майбутня перемога. Кожен, хто організовує збори та підтримує вогонь волонтерства цієї щирої української єдності. Кожен, хто знаходить і привозить все те, що так потрібно в окопах. Кожен, хто тренує наших воїнів, хто здобуває славу Україні спортивними перемогами, хто відкрив двері власного дому і прихистив тих, хто втратив свою домівку. Я дякую вам. Ті, хто народжує для українців мотивуючі строки, кладе їх на прекрасну музику, виконує ці пісні для бійців на фронті, для поранених в госпіталі, на благодійних концертах у світі, який бореться пліч-опліч з нами, з Україною. Важливий кожен, хто пережив окупацію, хто тримав на площах український прапор, хто досі в окупації, але тримає наш стяг так, щоб окупант не знайшов. Хто чекав і хто дочекається України. Кого було поранено, хто втратив кінцівки, але не втратив себе. І головне, що ми всі тебе не втратили. Хто пережив полон, у кого забрали свободу, але не волю, хто не втратив Україну в собі, хто повернувся і продовжує битись. І ті, хто повернуться, обов'язково. Всі, хто довів, всі потрібні, всі важливі. І люди, і дії, і слова. Бо ми всі зробили так, що коли один говорить,
а Україні,
весь світ відповідає: героям слава! З Днем Незалежності, Україно! Слава Україні!
And Героям слава! And Героям слава! And with that, that is the end of President Zelensky's special year's anniversary of the Ukrainian Independence Day. And of course, that is the end of Zelensky's speech and the beginning of the next part of this show. And so, with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and jumping into our last poll and question segment, our first poll says, what do you make of the Wagner camps being disassembled in Belarus? 39% said Wagner is preparing to go to Moscow. 28% said it's too early to know. 22% said Wagner is being expelled to Africa, and 10% said unsure. And to me, it seems like with the emotional situation on the ground with the Wagner people about the alleged death of Prigozhin, that he will soon, or excuse me, not he, Wagner might soon be going to Moscow very soon. Obviously, that's a pretty big statement to make, but I think they're so upset that maybe they might organize and make another approach on Moscow. But that's speculation at the moment. But Enforcer, what say you?
I think they may try. I think that's certain at this point they are going to violently lash out at something, and I have a feeling the Russian government is going to be the easiest low-hanging fruit for them to go for. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one says, Ukrainian General Zaluzhny says a big frontline breakthrough is very close. Is it hype or reality? 47% said it is true, just a matter of time. 25% said it seems legit, but I'm unsure. 20% said it's probably just hopeful talk, and 8% said unsure. And I'm with the 25%. It seems legit, but I am unsure. Enforcer, what says you?
I would say that it
what says you?
Says me. I says me. I think it's going to be a wild success, especially from what we're seeing right now around Robotyne. But I'm a bit of an optimist when it comes to the Ukrainians, because like that little Independence Day address was talking about, there are a lot of brave soldiers out there. In fact, the entire nation of Ukraine is working towards this breakthrough, and hopefully what we're seeing right now will lead to a breakthrough that we can talk about tomorrow that has meaningful results pushing towards Tokmak. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, because I'm fairly optimistic about what we've seen today. And so with that, we are on to the next one. Really quickly, before we move on to the next one, I'm seeing for some reason that we've had a flood of people trying to bring up politics in the live chat of multiple different things. And really quickly, I would like to say that we do not allow politics on this channel. I remain strictly politically neutral. That is also channel policy as well, and we do not allow political discussion in the live chats, especially pertaining to American politics. This channel is not your soapbox. I know that everyone feels like everywhere is their soapbox nowadays. This is not it. If you want, you can go to every other place, the news, the NFL, whatever the hell you want. You can go spout politics there all day long, all day, all night. Hell, I think the election cycle's coming around again. Go out there into the middle of the sidewalk and go yell it there. But this is not the place. If you want to talk politics, we have a rule against it. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and with that being said, we are fresh out of poll questions. So we're moving back into our Super Chat questions. And our first one goes to Troy Wilson, who puts in a $50 donation, and thank you very much, Troy, for that support. He says, I still think Prigozhin might still be alive if Putin has body doubles, and I think he does too long. And long live the LSA, and please take a live chat question.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And American can be described in one word. Could you reread the line?
The whole thing. The whole thing.
Please.
It says, I still think Prigozhin might still be alive if Putin has body doubles. I think he does. Long live the LSA, and please take a live chat question.
And I thank you for the support. We will take a live chat. I had to hear that again. I doubt he's alive. Like, I don't mean to be in that camp so doggedly, because I know a lot of people are probably like, damn, he's sticking with it. But when important people die, they die. You know, John Lennon, he died. Tupac, I hate to tell y'all, he died. Michael Jackson, you guessed it, he died. And so everybody that is important, when they die, they die. It's over for them. It's lights out. There's no faking a death on a large scale. It very rarely happens. In fact, I can't really think off the top of my head of any historical incidents where someone faked their death at that prominent of a level. If anyone could come up with an example for that, I would be happy to be mistaken on that. But I can't think of any historical examples of anyone that was near to the level of being the leader of a country or being the leader of a massive thing like the Wagner PMC and then faking their death. And I see some people saying Elvis. Oh yeah, Elvis, y'all, I hate to say this, he died on that toilet. I mean, like, y'all can, people can say whatever they want. He died on that toilet. And so, you know, that's all I got. You know, important people, when they die, they die. I'm pretty sure he's dead. But there's always a chance, considering that we have not seen any proof of his body, that he is possibly still alive. It's a small chance, in my opinion, but it might be. Honestly, though, considering that we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier on stream, I feel like everyone's treating Prigozhin's possible death the same way everyone treated the Titan submersible for a while and acted like there would still be living people down there 5 miles below the surface of the sea. Like, logic would say, nah, they were probably all dead. But a lot of people want to hold out hope that these people were still alive. And I feel like we're kind of starting to treat Prigozhin that way with the idea of, well, maybe he's alive. I'm pretty sure he's probably dead. He's probably actually in that wreckage. But another thing that's going to make it really hard to say, you know, he's dead, it's not really like they're going to be pulling out an intact Prigozhin to take a picture of, if you know what I mean. This guy probably looks like burnt steak at this point and is in multiple pieces. So it's going to be really hard to just get a definite picture beyond what looks like charcoal and say, yep, that's him. So one thing we did hear, though, recently is that they, and this was actually from a viewer in the live chat, is that apparently they have found fragments of his phone in the wreckage. So that might be our best proof to go off of at this moment that he is in fact dead. But y'all have to remember, finding bodies in a plane crash like that were in a fire are going to be very hard to get. It's most likely going to rely on DNA identification, and of course that throws up a whole new can of worms, because how in the world can we trust Russian DNA identification? They lie about everything. That would probably be one of the easiest things to lie about. Another thing also is that some people, and I don't even know what the hell was up with this. Like, when everyone heard getting back to the Titan submersible, because this is another thing, you know, where people are like, they never found the bodies, and here's why. A lot of people, when they heard that the Titan submersible had imploded, the news crews started asking the Coast Guard, so how are you going to recover the bodies? It's like, do you not get it? They turned into, like, mist down there. They're not even a person anymore. They are molecules. Like, when that thing imploded, it crushed them completely. There's nothing left to recover of these people. And that's kind of a similar situation, is that, you know, people are probably going to be expecting, oh, where's the body at Prigozhin? There probably won't be one. You know, if there is, it's going to be very little of it, and it's going to be unrecognizable, most likely. But that's kind of my take on it, so, you know, I could be completely wrong. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm very vehement in what I'm saying, that Prigozhin is dead, but I could be completely wrong, and honestly, that's fine with me. I'll just say I'm wrong, and then we'll see. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, and we will make sure to get a live chat question. So with that, what do we got?
And the live chat question goes to Rich, who says, why does U.S. intel and others say the offensive is stalled and has little chance of success when things seem to be moving forward for Ukraine?
Well, it's a good question. The reason why is because, and I'm trying to figure out how to say this in a new way, because I say this a lot whenever we get around to this, and it's kind of like a broken record. I don't really have a lot of faith in the U.S. Department of Defense's statements, especially pertaining to the Ukraine war, because usually they're pretty inaccurate. And I know some people are like, what the hell are you talking about? The Department of Defense, that's their job. They're the military. Well, yeah, you're right, but have y'all ever noticed that sometimes the military does kind of weird things? I mean, I'm not trying to, bash the military or anything, but, like a destroyer runs into a merchant ship in the middle of the open sea. Like, how in the world does that happen? Or, they misaccount billions of dollars of support that we actually didn't send to Ukraine, and then they find that out months later. Or, when they say they're going to send F-16s this year, and then they're postponed to next year. Or other things, like Milley, General Milley, saying that the Ukraine war would only last 3 days to a week if it actually began, and that was before the war started. There are just enough comments that have come out of the Department of Defense that I don't really believe a lot of what they say when they say it. I don't take it at face value. Now, the offensive has been going a lot slower than we thought it would. That's for sure. But at the same time, they then will make a blanket statement. They'll say it has gone slow, and it will continue to go slow. And that's the part that I have a problem with, is that their predictions and forecasts are usually just wrong. So to answer that the best I can, while they're saying it's slow, they're not the Ukrainian military, and they've been wrong enough times that it shouldn't be taken as at face value. So I think that they're just, talking out of the rear end again, kind of like they normally do. Not to be rude to Marine, because I know they're trying their best, but I mean, they got to ramp it up at some point. And so that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for sponsoring that live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Beef Taco, puts in a $50 donation as well. And welcome back, Beef Taco, and thank you very much for the support. He says, hey guys, it's been a while, and yes it has. And he says, but I do appreciate your commentary and the narrow curbs you place on political BS, and those who would use us as a platform. And have a coffee on me, and enjoy.
And thank you so much for the coffee, Beef Taco. We need it. And apparently the Java update is available. Thank you for letting me know that in the middle of my live stream. Thank you, Java. But anyways, moving on from that, thank you so much for letting us have a coffee. And also, it has been a freaking long time. And welcome back. And I hope you've been having a fun time watching tonight. I hope you have a fun time watching, catching up on the streams, because it's great to have you back. You're a channel legend, an old guard. And I've got to thank you so much for appreciating the narrow curves we put on politics, because that's one thing that I get so tired of. And, and I'll admit with y'all, I'm going to have to key y'all in on something. I'm sure many of y'all know this. The politics crap is not going to be going away, because the whole election cycle is coming around again in the United States for the president. So there's going to be loads of people who act like they're really going to make an impact by coming into this live chat and saying something stupid that you've probably heard 5 million times. It's going to happen. We're going to be as vigilant as possible in crushing that when it pops up, because I don't care if the United States is collapsing. We are not covering politics on this channel. This channel is entirely about supporting Ukraine. I do not care about your personal politics, your personal political affiliations. That is all inconsequential. If you support Ukraine and you're on that same page, we are all for you being on this channel and watching this and having the news covered here. And beyond that, that's really all we care about. So we will not be covering politics. We are going to keep that rule as strictly covered as it has been. And I don't like the idea of using a war in a foreign country where people are dying to try and defend their own nation as a soapbox where I can put my little box on top of hundreds of thousands of dead bodies and try and tout my political opinions from there. That seems ridiculous. And also, it doesn't seem like news. That just seems like spouting off your opinion with a political twist. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Beef Tackle. And I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support.
And the next one goes to Hal Rose, who puts in a $33 donation as well. And thank you very much, Hal, for that support. Hey! They said, Enforcer, great to see Magyar is still going strong. And how is call sign Witch doing? And last I heard, she was in Bakhmut.
And I thank you for the support, Hal. And Magyar is still going strong, but I don't know how the Witch is doing. We don't really get to see a lot of video clips about what's going on with the Witch anymore. I think she's actually training Ukrainian soldiers, last I heard, like a statement about the Witch at some training field in Western Ukraine, but I don't know what she's doing now, because I think that info was like 3 weeks to a month old. So her job may have changed again, but with that, I hope that addresses that the best we can. And I thank you so much for the support, Hal Rose, and helping to keep this channel running, because folks like you make this thing possible. And I gotta thank you so much for always looking out for the channel, because it's always important to help keep this thing rolling. So thank you so much once again, and thank you for helping this stream to keep ad-free and sponsor-free. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Anonymous, who puts in a $25 donation. And thank you very much for that support. They said Ukraine will receive F-16s, and from your knowledge, does Ukraine currently have the right missiles and bombs? And if Ukraine doesn't have them, what could they ask NATO nations for?
They could ask NATO nations for really the whole 9 yards of weaponry that could be mounted onto the F-16. For the large part, they actually don't have all of the weapons that could be used on Western aircraft. They're largely devoid of that kind of stuff. So they would have to ask the West for all, well, ask the West, not ask the West, but they'll have to ask the West for the rest of the ordinances that the Western aircraft can carry, such as the F-16. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support and asking a good question, because nobody ever talks about the logistical end of Western aircraft and what kind of weaponry they will need to be fully functional or as efficient as they can be. Nobody ever really talks about that side of things, and it's a big part of the equation. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Luke Mousseau, I believe is how it's said, but I'm probably not saying it right. But thank you very much, Luke, for the $20 support. And he says, how far are we from Talk Mac?
We are not that far at the moment. Like, if we whip out a ruler, which is a word that puts many a fear in most people, but if we whip out a ruler and we put that right there, and then we go to the very edge of Talk Mac, the Ukrainians are about 11 miles away. Oh, we'll put it out here. About 12 miles away from Tokmak right now. Not that far, really. Not that far at all. Only 12 miles. It's a bit of a walk at this point. Maybe a short drive. But if they can push the front lines as hard as possible over this next week or two, they might actually be able to get really close to taking it. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And there's your exact number, approximately 12 miles. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Snow White, who puts in a $20 donation as well. And thank you very much, Snow White, for that support. I said, thanks for lulling me to sleep last night on a flight from Chantilly, Virginia to Tanglewood. An elaborate assassination not in my wheelhouse, but space is. And coffee and breakfast sandwiches are on me. Chefs. Or, excuse me, chefs.
Chefs.
And I think that's it.
Well, I thank you so much for the support and help the channel keep on running. And nice to hear that we were able to help you to pass by a flight and also help you to sleep, because I didn't know that our channel was a sleeping aid, but it apparently is for a lot of people. Honestly, like Matthew and me have talked about that in the background. We're always like, how do we take that? Is that a compliment or an insult? Because we want y'all to be interested enough that y'all stay awake, but at the same time, it is great to hear that it is a good enough show that people can sleep to it. So we're like, we don't know what to take from comments like that. We don't know if it's good or bad. I'm taking it as good, though, for sure. And also, where in the world is Chantilly, Virginia? Not Chantilly, Chantilly.
Oh, Chantilly.
Oh, that little airport there looks like it's 3/4 of a way to being a Geschlechtvergleichung. But anyways, moving on. Moving on from that, we can see Chantilly right here. And what does it look like? Why, it looks like the rest of the United States. Oh, it looks a lot like Highway 280 in Birmingham, I'm not going to lie, in some parts of it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that a question?
Oh, I mean, like, I was kind of looking for some input here, intake there, But hey, I mean, to me, it looks a lot like it. And look, there's the Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Center. And also the Fairfax County Police Department driver's course, which looks like an F1 course. And look, it's
they really need a driver's course like that. That's like a racetrack, basically.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. I was like, that's a little overkill, but hey, I guess the tax money's got to go somewhere, and it's certainly not going to be the schools, damn it. But anyways, we can also see the Udvar-Hazy Air and Space Museum right here, which is a really cool museum. I'd highly recommend checking it out if you're ever in the area. But still, thank you so much for the support, and I'm glad that we were able to help you to pass the time, because we love to know that folks can get onto this channel and enjoy it, and that it's humorous, but it also covers the news at the same time, and everyone can largely enjoy it. And I gotta thank you so much for the support, because you help us to keep this channel the exact way it is, specifically the streams. Without y'all's support through the super chats, we wouldn't be able to joke around like we do. We wouldn't be able to cover the news the way we do, because we would be bending to the will on the streams to sponsors and ads, and that means that we would not be able to run it the way we do, because usually the AdSense has certain criterias that they want to be met, otherwise they'll limit the AdSense, or sponsors can also do the same. They may not sponsor you if they don't really like the way you're covering things. So y'all help us to keep this thing rolling, and without y'all, this wouldn't have been possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And did they want a live chat, Matthew?
They did not.
Just making sure. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Marion Deemer, who puts in a $20 donation and says, Slava Ukraine and Herom Slava.
And Slava Ukraine and Herom Slava. And thank you so much for the support, Marion Deemer. I saw when that came in. It came in right around the end of Zelensky's speech. And I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on rolling, because, Marion, you are an old guard and have been around for an incredibly long time, and I've always got to thank you so much for consistently supporting this channel and helping us to keep it on air. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well, and long live the Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Augustin Lara. And thank you very much, Augustin, for that support. They said you have to try al pasta tacos, marinated pork. Anyway, don't think we forgot when you two admitted being lizard people and forced to make that Michael Jackson scream.
And I thank you so much for the support, Augustin Lara. And whoa, bro. Real trap shit. Walk with your boys.
Trapaholics.
We make it look easy.
Walk with your boys. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Ah, that's it. Dude, that was a jinx, man. A jinx. But anyways, here is the al pastor thing. And honestly, man, that looks a lot like the shish kebab thing that you make gyros with, you know?
Yeah, it looks like that, what they call it? Halal? It looks like that halal. Or whatever they call it.
No,
wait a minute, it's not called that. It's called...
Halal is
it's
like
called a shish kebab.
I don't think it's a shish kebab or a halal. Like, halal is like, you know, it's safe
Shawarma.
for Muslims to eat. Yeah, it looks kind of like shawarma, but pretty neat. And I think we'll have to try this, because Matthew is a huge fan of tacos. He absolutely loves tacos, mostly fish tacos though. But I will certainly have to look at this. Speaking of like this kind of like meat like thing going on here, gyros are absolutely incredible. I don't know how many of y'all have had a real gyro, because we never had one until like 3 or 4 years ago. Real gyros are the bomb, and they come off of like a shish kebab thing like that. The meat does, and it is unbelievably good. I think meat cooked like this has got to be the best meat out there, you know, for like putting onto tacos or gyros or anything that really has to do with like a bread wrapping. This has got to be the best kind of meat to go into that stuff. But still, thank you so much once again for the support, Augustin, and also recommending this to us, because I know we will be trying this for sure really soon. And also, yeah, I can't forget, we are lizard people. That's why it's very hard for us to operate during well, it's very easy for us actually to operate at night, because the sun isn't shining anymore, so we aren't out there trying to sunbathe. We're inside and we can actually work. And also we're nocturnal, which once again contributes ourselves to the lizard people. Every once in a while we meet up with other lizards like Mark. We love Mark Zuck. He's a great guy. I'm just, you know, not political or anything. I'm just making a joke. Don't take that anyway, because I know someone will. But you know, we meet up with him every once in a while. He's smoking the meats. He's lathering on the sunscreen like it's some kind of a ointment. Like it's insane. But he's a really cool guy, really great guy. We meet up with him at the lizard meets every once in a while, and we're still waiting for the CIA check. Everyone who's a lizard person, they get hired by the CIA, still haven't gotten the thing. But hey, I'm holding out hope. And so with that, thank you so much for the support, Augustin. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to, excuse me, Margaret Hemsley, who puts in a $15 donation. And thank you very much, Margaret, as well. Hey! And she said, hello, Chad Captains, and put this toward I really need a motorbike fund. And fun fact, Doc Martens boots were created by a German soldier with an injured ankle, and he made air soles using used tires. And I did not know that. And LSA.
And long live the Lee Spring Army, and thank you for the support, Margaret Hemsley, and also sharing that neat little fun fact. And also, speaking of a motorbike fund, that is a really interesting suggestion right there, because Matthew can tell you there's this one motorcycle company that I'm always looking at, and I'm going to have to plug them. because I'm a huge fan of their motorcycle designs. Maybe some of y'all will be, I don't know, motorcycle people are pretty picky, but there's a company in Goshen, Indiana. It's run out of a motorworks shop. So it's not like, it's not like other motorcycle companies where they kind of have a factory going on at this point. It's still a motorworks shop like you would have found in like the early 20th century, but they make vintage looking motorcycles like this one here. This is a Janus Halcyon 450, I think. They are super cool. I absolutely love these things. And if I ever was able to get a motorcycle, it would be this one. And so thank you so much for supporting the Motorbike Fund, because if I ever get one, it will be one of these. I promise you. I'm a big fan of the way they look. They don't go fast, though. I think their top speed is like 90 miles an hour. So it's not like the fastest motorcycle out there, but it looks sick. And it comes in so many colors. The whole thing's customizable. But anyways, I can't go on for too long because we do have to get up at 6 in the morning. Well, actually, for me, it's like 5:30 in the morning. But with that, thank you so much once again for support, Margaret, to the, oh my lord, C-Face said is a piece of crap. Exiled! I'm just kidding. Everyone's got their opinions, but I love the thing. I think it looks great. And so with that, thank you so much for the support, Margaret. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one also goes to Margaret Hemsley, who puts in a 15 and says, Enforcer, what do you think African countries with links to Wagner will do now? And put this towards, I really need an electric car fund. Tee-hee. Or some fresh fruit. Nature's candy. Yum.
Thank you so much for the support. And also giving us a fruit fund. That's pretty cool. And as far as the African countries will go, now with a complete lack of Wagner forces with any real communications there or any real purpose, I have a feeling that there's going to be some power vacuums or some great decreases in some warlords' power in those areas. And that may create further unrest in the area, or it may actually decrease the unrest in the area. Can't really tell. It's probably on a country-to-country basis. It may be different in each one, so it can't really make a blanket statement at the moment. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And thank you for the electric car fund, because Teslas are pretty neat, unless if you use that self-driving feature and then they run someone over and all that. Then it's not that neat, but beyond that, they're pretty cool. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Digital Bladeka, who puts in a 10 and says, Heroem Slava, and glory to the heroes, and happy Ukrainian Independence Day.
And happy Ukrainian Independence Day, and Slava Ukraini, and Heroem Slava. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to TT something here. I'm not sure how to pronounce that last part, but they put in a $10 donation. That says Politico, published an article with the best title ever, and get your South Park voices on. I don't know what South Park voice is, but it says, "Oh my God, they killed Yevgeny, you bastards!" Also, give someone in the chat a question. Slav Ukraine.
Really quickly, I've heard of South Park characters talking a little bit. Let me see if I can do it. Oh my God, they killed Yevgeny! I don't know. That was terrible. Don't quote me on that. Someone's going to clip that now. It's going to be terrible.
Oh my God, they killed Yevgeny, you bastards!
Like Zoink Scoob, they killed Yevgeny. Ruh-roh, Raggy. But anyways, thank you so much for the support. Can't do a South Park voice, apparently, but we'll try off-screen, and eventually I'll get it down, but I don't know when. But with that, thanks so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the chat question goes to Julian Britt, who says, do you think the A-10 Warthog would be a good addition to Ukraine's arsenal?
There's actually been a lot of heated debates on this channel about that question. My idea is that no, because it requires so many supporting aircraft that the U.S. would also have to send that it just becomes too expensive and very difficult to pull off. So I think it would be better to send them more F-16s or similar aircraft like that, maybe even F-15Es if you really wanted to push the technological envelope to them, because those will be a lot more effective and do the same thing, but it'll be much more difficult to shoot them down or for them to be attrited. That's the way I think about that. But with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. Please don't start killing each other in the live chat over that. And with that, we are on to the next. But thank you so much for sponsoring that live chat.
And the next one goes to Big Dog. Goodness gracious. It goes to Big Dog Born, who puts in a $10 donation. And they said Putin and or the MOD drizzled Wagner across the fields. And hear me out. What if Ukraine, SOF, or CIA used a S-300 on the plane, knowing Wagner had contingency plans in place versus Russia?
That's something that I actually talked about with Matthew. Matthew can actually vouch for that. Literally before the stream the other day, I was like, I think maybe the Ukrainians may have done that. Didn't want to say that on stream though, because I don't want to be like a total conspiracy theorist on this kind of stuff. But it's not out of the question. You know, that's something that could have happened. I'm feeling like it's less likely. It's just kind of like an idea being thrown around out there. But who knows? I mean, in 20 years, it could be found out that that's exactly what happened. But beyond that, I also like how you said that they drizzled them over the fields. I mean, that's very descriptive writing right there. Sounds like we're creating a menu. Matthew, is that going to be the new Concord catering menu?
Oh no.
Oh no. Drizzle.
Oh no, no,
Oh
no, no, no.
no. Oh no. Oh no. But anyways, it is an Embraer 600 drizzled with Prigozhin and Ukin.
Here we have a rice pilaf drizzled with Wagner and also Embraer. Oh, a delicacy.
Wow. Yum. Great. Amazing. Yeah.
But anyway. This is raw.
This is raw. Madam. Take that jacket and I can't say the rest.
Or if you're talking about the Prigozhin plane, you burnt the plane. You burnt it. It's burned.
You burnt the freaking plane, you effing. Oh, I can't say the rest of it. But anyways, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address it fairly well. I love the adjective of drizzled. So I'm gonna have to start using that more frequently. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Troy Wilson yet again, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Troy, once again for that support. He says, going out here, but I think Prigozhin is in Cuba.
Cuba? Oh, hell no. He's not in Cuba. You know what's down in Cuba? Poverty. That's it.
Well,
like,
that's Russia too.
Well, I mean, hell, dude, you think poverty's poverty until you go to North Korea and Cuba, and then they're on a whole other level of poverty. Like, they beat everyone's poverty. Like, hell, even the damn Zimbabwe looks like they're the United States economically compared to Cuba and North Korea. So
what's wrong with Zimbabwe?
Man, do you see their money? Like, they got $100 trillion bill, man. Like, that is a failing economy if I've ever seen one.
That was a joke.
Man, I'm telling you. You got me going off here. But anyways, moving on from Zimbabwe and back to Cuba. Oh, man, that would be wild. You know, but, like, I'm saying it's a little out there, but just entertaining the idea. Wouldn't that be crazy if Prigozhin was only 90 miles away from the United States at the closest? That would be nuts. It really would be. But I'm kind of feeling like, it might be a bit of a stretch. But hey, one can dream, you know. Maybe he's closer to the United States. Maybe we can get him into the Southern District of... wait a minute, hang on. The Southern District of Florida Federal District Court. Maybe.
Hell, he could even be in Palm Beach at a resort.
Choyo! The beach is pretty nice. But anyways.
Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago. It's a great place. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running.
All right, and up next we have a $5 super chat from Dark Warrior 137 who says, like Zoink Scoob, we still haven't installed chaff and flares on our leader's plane. Ruh-roh, Raggy. He didn't say anything though after it.
wait, no, I got this, Matthew. Whoop. Like Zoink Scoob, we still haven't installed chaff and flares on our leader's plane. Ruh-roh, Raggy. Incoming! And then the plane gets hit. Oh man, that joke never gets old. It never gets old. But at least for me, I love doing it. But still, thank you so much for the support, Dark Warrior 137. And I hope we were able to do that line justice. And so with that, zoinks! And with we are on to the next day. Thank you once again for the support.
And the next one goes to Rick, who puts in a $10 donation and says two did not take the flight. One of them could have left the flight before it took off, and bomb was in luggage or carrying a package for someone else.
And I thank you for the support, but the video evidence, from what we understood, showed otherwise. The fuselage appeared to have not been damaged whatsoever. It appeared to have been the vertical stabilizer on the back of the plane that was sheared off by some kind of external force, and the aircraft began to tumble down to the earth, now having lost its vertical stabilizer and also its elevators, largely losing control of the craft. From what we understand, video footage-wise, of course. That is subject to appeal. But anyways, moving back on to the subject at hand, I have a feeling that he probably didn't scoot off, because they arrested all the guys in the second plane that didn't get shot down when they made it to St. Petersburg, and that tells me they had some eyes on this plane from when it was taking off in Moscow and heading up to St. Petersburg. So if they saw anyone trying to bail out of the plane, I'm sure they arrested them when they were out of view of everyone else. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Marcia Tucker just asked, what is that voice? I don't even know. I'm just doing it. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support.
And the next one goes to Demoyo360, who puts in a 10 and says, Hola, amigos, and thanks for all your info about Ukraine and freeing their beautiful country.
And thank you so much for the kind words and the support. Because folks like you supporting this channel help us to do this as a job, to be able to cover the news of what's going on over there, and also run our Sunday fundraisers, which are the biggest deal on this channel, period. And so, thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you for supporting this channel and keeping the flag of the Lee Spring Army flying. And so with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you once again.
All right, and up next, big shout out to Trister1. He put in a $10 donation and said, thanks, gents. And thank you, Trister. Also, we had a 5 from DB. And sadly, I know the joke, but I can't read it off because it might be misconstrued by some, but I did get it and it was quite funny. And also, shout out to CK Bold as well, who put in a 5 and said take a live chat question. So once again, thanks to DB, CK, and Trister for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
My boy, he wants the usual, Matthew. He wants the usual. But still, thank you so much for the support from all of y'all, because y'all's support helps this channel to keep on running. And if it wasn't for folks like y'all who went over y'all's way to support this channel, we wouldn't be able to run this thing the way we do. We wouldn't be able to run it the way y'all enjoy it. And I gotta thank y'all so much once again for continuing to support us and help us to do this, because y'all make this channel possible, each and every single one of y'all. And so with that, let's get CK Bowl's live chat question.
All right, and the live chat question goes to Tina, who says, do Ukrainian forces reuse Russian mines that are removed intact by Ukrainian sapper?
That's an amazing question. We don't know. We always see them taking away the mines, and I'm assuming that if they are able to defuse them, and the Ukrainians use the exact same variety of mines, I have a feeling they probably do end up being recycled and used by the Ukrainians. But there are so many Russian mines, probably a lot of them just end up in storage somewhere or end up being destroyed, so that way they don't become a massive ammo cache to be blown up later. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And thank you so much once again for the support, CK Bold, and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one is a $20 super chat, 20-pound super chat actually, from Peter. From Peter. And he said, is it more useful to destroy, example, ATU-22 and damage 2 more with 1 hit, or more useful militarily to cluster munition the fleet and airfield for minor multiple aircraft hits, causing multiple repairs?
That's a good question, because you can either knock out an aircraft permanently, which the Russians probably wouldn't have the ability to replace, or you can end up damaging multiple aircraft, and while they will all most likely be repaired, it will take a long time for all of them to be repaired. That's a good question. And it's kind of a bit of a moral dilemma, and for that, we need to look into the theories of aircraft damage laws. And so we're going to be going back into the Court of Assizes in 1346. Dude, I'm telling you, I can't get away from it anymore. It's stuck in my head. Get it out of my head! But anyways, to answer that question realistically, I think it's better to outright destroy a plane at this point, because while the Russians can repair those aircraft and have them flying again, they never will be able to get a completely destroyed Tu-22 in the air again. So I have a feeling, in my opinion, that will probably be the best thing to do, is outright destroy the aircraft instead of trying to cause light damage to loads of them. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Peter, and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you make this thing possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And the next one goes to JC Atkins, who puts in a 10 and says, I just want to say that you guys rock, and I blow this community, and Zelensky is and an inspiration for everyone who strives for freedom. And best to all here tonight from your favorite LSA Navy NCO.
Hey! And thank you so much for the support, JC, and helping the channel to keep on running. And thank you for the kind words as well. We try our best running this channel to keep this thing rolling. And if it wasn't for folks like you, JC, we wouldn't have been able to be here for as long as we have been. And we wouldn't have been able to be here tonight or even in the future. And so I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because you make it possible for this stream to be live and for the LSA and the community, the amazing community we have in the live chat, to be here as well. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And of course, a huge hello to our favorite LSA, LSN NCO. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Troy Wilson yet again, who puts in another $20 donation. He says, "Great show, guys, and keep it up."
And thank you so much for the support, Troy, and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for saying to keep it up, because we are keeping it up. We are keeping this thing rolling, and of course, we are always greatly appreciative to people like you, Troy, who support this channel and help it to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you, and I say this so much, I do sound like a broken record, and forgive me, but it is true each time. If it wasn't for folks like you who supported this channel and helped us to keep this thing running, we wouldn't be able to be here to keep it up. And I've got to thank each and every one of y'all, because, of course, we have to eat, we have to keep lights on, we have to do all kinds of things behind the scenes. An old school, of course, dreadful. But of course, y'all make it all possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again, Troy, for the support, and I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And the next one goes to Diffuse56, who puts in a 5 and says, "But wouldn't it be cool if Prigozhin were still alive?"
I mean, it would be cool.
Cool in a way that maybe he'll take down Putin, but he was a pretty evil guy. Let's be totally real here.
I mean, in terms of a plot twist, just from that aspect alone, I think that would be really cool. You know, like if Putin's sitting there, oh, it's terrible, he's dead, and then he just shows up in some basement in Russia. I'm not dead. The Wagner's coming for you. Like, that would be the biggest plot twist ever. I'd be like, oh my god. I would be like, this is it. Like, this is the Civil War.
Man, the reaction would have to be very mixed. Like, damn. Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that.
Dude, my reaction would be, damn! Like, I'd be like, oh my god, we are watching history. That would be the craziest thing ever. If y'all are talking about something that would go down in history books forever, that would be it. Like, you could be in public school in Alabama in 4th grade, and they would be teaching Alabama history, which is what they do in the state in 4th grade, is that they teach you the state history. And you would get to the modern era, and they would have that section, which has nothing to do about Alabama, in there, just because it would be so crazy. Like, it would be something that has to be talked about even then. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, but that would legitimately be insane. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Bub, who puts in a 5 and says, "So we need more evidence, but it was definitely Putin." Okay, LMAO.
Oh, LMAO. Yes, it was. We can confirm that regardless. Like, whether it had Prigozhin in it or not, we know that plane was shot down because of orders from Putin. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. Hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've got one from White Lightning 777 who puts in a 5 and says, "Hey! Russian bear equals South Park sexual harassment panda. Ha 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 ha."
What?
I don't know.
Well, I thank you for the support. Sounds like we got some kind of a Harvey Weinstein panda up in here. I don't know much about it, but I still thank you for the support. Help with this channel to keep on running, White Lightning 777. And also, thank you for being an old guard and sticking with this channel for 547 days. And so with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support.
All right, and the next one goes to J-Dog, who puts in a 5 and says, "Would it be possible to rig a full shell onto one of those large human-sized quadcopters with clear trenches and the spread could vary with altitude?"
Dude, a Russian soldier in a trench, he's just sitting there, and then he looks up and you hear, he goes, "Oh, bled, Baba Yaga." And you just see a whole 155mm shell just start falling. Oh man, it could happen. Like, Baba Yaga may actually be able to carry a shell like that, but he probably wouldn't be able to carry it that far. But it's entirely possible with a Baba Yaga drone. It could happen. And so with that, thank you for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Inconsistent User Data, who puts in a 5 and says, "Ring ring, what's the news?" Okay, and that other little thing. Crimea, suka bliat, hangs phone repeatedly on desk, and then throws it away even.
Damn. Property damage? Trespass to shadow.
Man, they can't afford to throw the phone away. That's the only one they've got.
I mean, hell, man, what are they gonna do? Like, build another one? They can't. But anyways, thank you for the support. And I would say that's probably exactly what happened in the Kremlin today when they heard about that embarrassment. Like, it's an embarrassment that they even made it to shore for the Russians. But of course, still try and suppress the footage, make sure it doesn't make it around in Russia. But still an embarrassment for the Russian government. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. Hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
The next one goes to Digital Bladeka, who puts in a 2 and says, "Can we play Zelensky's speech, Independence Day?" And we sure did.
And we sure did. And so with that, thank you for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And we're on to the next one.
And we have a 2 from Zeddy, who says, "Heyo, what are your thoughts on the Chandrayaan-3?"
How do you spell that?
That's that moon lander that that India sent.
Oh, well, I think it's great that it landed. Pretty cool to see that the Indians are starting to get a pretty good space program running, and it appears that they may actually start to become a competitor in some space races for particular objectives. So, good on them, and, hopefully they keep it up. Considering that we're trying to be buddies with them, I think it's good that we probably try and support them a little bit in that and go, hey, good job, man, like, great job. But anyways, with that, thank you so much for the support. Hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have one last super chat. This one is from Sicka Games, who puts in a 2 and says, "Have you guys seen the TikTok Shoyu and Prigozhin?"
No, I have not seen that one, but I have seen a whole bunch of memes. Like, so many of them have been just so freaking good. Like, one of them was about when you're catching a plane, but you see that Putin booked you a ticket on Spirit Airlines, and it's Prigozhin, he's like crying and stuff as the plane is landing in front of him. But I've seen so many memes on it. People have been memeing the hell out of this thing. But sadly, I don't think I've seen a particular meme with that title. But still, with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And it's time for us to get on into those sweet, sweet live chat questions. We've made it to that point in the stream because we always guarantee that this stream is absolutely free to watch. You can support us if you want. You don't have to if you don't want to, but of course it does help the channel to keep rolling. We are, of course, due to a limited amount of time tonight, only going to be able to answer 5 live chats, and then we're going to be rounding out tonight's stream. I hope everyone understands because we have to get up extremely early tomorrow, and we want to make sure to at least get around 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And so with that, we are on to the first one.
All right, and we'll actually be only addressing 3 plus the live chat because that's all we have left. So the Morse code of the stream was solved tonight by Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl of Bernew, and Paul Schultz. They said tonight's Morse code cipher is: Ukrainian boots have landed in Crimea. Slav Ukraine, long live the LSA.
And that's the sound of money. And y'all hit that dead on the nail. That is the exact Morse code message of the night. And I got to congratulate y'all for getting that correct on the 547th day again. Y'all have an absolutely amazing skill with being able to read Morse code, and it blows me away each and every single time. And so with that, we are now on to the third to last question of the night, apparently.
And this one goes to the Conquistador, who says, "Can a saboteur sneak on the plane and set a timer to disable the transponder on purpose? Just theory crafting."
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not out of the question. If the Russians were able to get access to that jet before it took off, they could have done anything that they wanted to it. In fact, everything's in question. The ability of the control services, the responsiveness of the aircraft, if there was a bomb on board, the repair cycles, any damage that was caused to it before it took off, all that could be in question. So it's not entirely out of the question that a mechanic could have gotten on board and meddled with it in that way. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. We are on to the second to last question of the night.
This one goes to Mad Machine, who says, "Have you heard if the pilot who surrendered the helicopter with aircraft parts has received any monetary compensation for the helicopter and parts?"
We haven't heard about monetary compensation, but we have heard that his family was actually taken from Russia and brought to Ukraine in expectation for him arriving. So we have heard that, but we've never heard about monetary compensation. So we'd have to declare ignorance on that for now. And so with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to ask the lucky last question of the night?
All right, and that viewer is Drunky Monkey, who says, "Do you think Putin has some crazy underlying medical condition, maybe making him make super dumb decisions?"
I don't think so. Because if he did, the Russian government probably would have overthrown him at this point, because Russian governmental structures are like shark pits. Like, when they smell blood, they go for it. And the fact that they wouldn't have overthrown him at this point would have been pretty wild, considering that the guy would be mentally unstable. So I think he's entirely coherent and cognizant of what he's doing. And we're just seeing that this quote-unquote genius mastermind, all of that crap was just built-up hype, and the guy's actually a goofball that doesn't know what he's really doing and just makes stupid decisions constantly. You got to remember that in the Second World War, Hitler tried to have himself portrayed as a genius, and then look at the strategic decisions that were made because of him, and look how stupid they all were. I mean, like, you can't even defend a single one of them. Like, and the Blitzkrieg wasn't even his. We're not going to we're not going down that rabbit hole, because I'm about to go through the whole rabbit hole of how the Blitzkrieg wasn't even his idea. That's just something that naturally formed in the German army due to wargaming and all that kind of stuff. But that's something for a whole other time. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, because I think he's completely in his right mind. He's just making stupid decisions because he's stupid. I don't think he's cunning at all. But with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I thank every single one of y'all so much for watching. Once again, it's been an absolutely amazing stream, and of course, covering amazing news. We are completely honored to know that so many of y'all have joined us tonight to watch this news, and at the peak, there were exactly 8.9 thousand of y'all on tonight. And of course, if y'all are still here and it's your first time watching, I thank you so much. Apparently, you must have enjoyed a pretty good bit. And if you did enjoy, please make sure to subscribe, make sure to like and comment, because it helps this channel to keep on going. And it also makes us really happy when folks subscribe, because we run these streams 6 days a week, every single night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Mondays, and we cover the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, just like you saw tonight. And we also put out daily war summaries as well that are about 10 to 15 minutes long in the middle of the day, but every once in a while we can't, like today. The schedules with law school and everything, it just doesn't work out for today. But with that, I hope y'all all enjoyed the stream. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army never dies.
And good night, LSA. See you all tomorrow, and of course, love Ukraine, and happy Ukrainian Independence Day. Heroes Slava.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.